I'm calling from Los Angeles, and I'm having a little problem. Under the name ThatUmbrellaGuy, I sent him my phone number at least 20 times in the chat and told him to call me. He ignored me. I'm a man. I filed the report. If you guys could take a look at it and give me a call back, I would love to hear what you guys can do to help us. We really need to kind of stop this guy at least until Monday. I told him to call me. I'm a man.
We love that umbrella guy. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Mic check. It's about the time to drop another blaze and jam for some rhyme. But y'all just fell. Wait, that's your intro. Reporting live from the trenches, trying to get away from their window. Hottest fish and wildlife, not have a story to tell about the check-in, but not out. Total sanctuary, roach motels, fully decked out with little people in the walls. Pokemon washed up edition, you gotta smoke them all. Allegedly. It's that umbrella guy. Mic dropping that gavel, lined up and knee replacement. This one's about to turn to gravel. Laughing at these punchlines, just trying to maintain. Platinum grill, iced out, conducting this stupid cash trade. Yeah, that umbrella guy, reporting live from the hat rack. You try to shell me twice, but where's your impact? Wandering the Shire, dreaming up your master plan. But a low ring column will never silence this man. One ring to rule them all, one ring to bind them. Snatching up the mic, no, you can't bind them. With your empty lines and your empty promises. Stranded in Ohio, missing dead Thomases. Say two, mic check, it's that army of one. BSF for John Foreman, Dixie, please don't leave food in the sun. Yeah, now that you're not a nice person, it's ended the fray. Where even the judge in Ohio can follow anything you say. Hey, from a guy with laugh tracks, real as your lies unravel. The only way your story works is if we can all time travel. Sending packets to court, thinking this can't fail. Underestimating the takedown of this verbal hammer on even the bravest nail. Speaking real, I got an observation. How you sleep at night with all false accusations? Do you ever reflect all on the lives on in this game? We pretend no family, no friends wasn't worth the cost in the very end. It's that umbrella guy dropping an epic song, so millions of others can laugh and sing along. You say you never posted as an admin, I made a sign, but the handwriting expert says, yeah, that's your line. That umbrella guy with the big bad wolf conjuring sound, bringing in a hurricane to take off Piggy's town, standing with the Hales as they fight this fight, knowing in the end they're doing what is right. You'll never win.
All right, what's up, folks? For a second there. Man, normally I don't talk about politics, but my God, it looks like they just tried to assassinate Donald Trump live. That's crazy. That is craziness. You know, I was just watching that. If people have not seen that, that is wild. That is freaking wild. Give me a second here. Give me out a cigar very quickly. Yeah, I mean that's, you know what, that's how you put somebody in office. Actually, if you try and you fail, that's how you put somebody in office. You know, just to say. Oh, man. Yeah, if you haven't seen that, I mean, heck, it happened like everybody and their mama. Actually, you can tell. Like they were like, well, there's a projectile of some type, like it's like a freaking air balloon or something. Look at this. This is madness. Again, I'm not spending the whole live stream talking about some... It doesn't matter. This craziness. Look at this crap. Check this out here. Just the way they talked about it, it was like, what the heck? Watch this.
Told, and if you want to really see something that said, take a look at what happened.
You can hear it. You can tell exactly what it was. The way it was talked about, though, it was discussed like it was a freaking, oh, it's a projectile. Like there's a popping sound that was heard. I was like, that ain't no popping sound. That's a freaking gun right there. That's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah, right in the ear. Right in the ear, man. Secret Service around him, hugging him like they're in some kind of group sewing circle. He gets up and, he's like, yeah, still alive, baby. It's crazy. I mean, freaking live, though. Yeah, they haven't, like, just right now. So, so I was like, so give me a second. I'm processing that for a moment. Then we'll talk about what we're going to talk about. I mean, that's wow. I mean, you could tell, like, afterwards, too. I said the media, the way they covered it, though, well, there's been a popping sound. That's how they said it. It was a popping sound, and it looks like a projectile of some sort has struck Donald Trump. So, I saw that as a headline. It rolled across, and I was like, I wonder, what does that mean? Did he get hit by I thought somebody threw something at him because of the way it came up. And I was like, I must have got struck by what, did they throw an egg at him or something? I thought somebody did say, no. I was like, no, that ain't an egg. Might even toss a projectile. They tossed it pretty fast out of a little pow-pow. That's what it sounded like. It's crazy how that was reported, What that does there, right there, if you look back, you look at people like you look at how Reagan was covered afterwards and stuff. That, again, a different situation, but still, you watch that man get in office because of that. And again, it's just insane. It shouldn't matter either if you hate a guy, like a guy, whatever, man. People trying to end somebody, all those people around and stuff too. It shows you how insane freaking politics is, because there's some very mentally disturbed folks out there. Anyway, I'm curious to see how that plays out. It's going to be a wild day, though. There's going to be a lot of people talking about it. Like I said, I'm going to spend a live stream talking about that. I actually want to talk about another crazy person and their pal. Actually, it brings up a very interesting point, though. We've been talking about another person that, well, they were arrested. What a segue, right? Well, speaking of arrests, speaking of pals, there was this crazy guy that actually did end up with a report about them on TV. That's right. And actually did end up on local news. John Cook actually ended up on there and got exposed to the entire world being just an absolute piece of garbage. There have been a couple of reports that have come out about it as well. You've seen a few discussions about it. I mean, if you look up John Cook and you look up Levy County, yeah, and one of the things, we did I'll show you that report. I'll show you the news report on it. But it was interesting to see this play out because there have been so many people that have treated Jeremy Hale and George like they have no idea what's happening there. Like they're somehow the cause of these people's crazy. And I mean, when you look at, you could see it on, I've never understood that, you know, the jokeless types. I don't get that. You know, how can you look at those people and their behavior and not see it for what it is? And of course, maybe they do. Maybe they just see it as an easy ticket to go through there, you know? Lienette's voice grates. I know. Oh, it's amazing. So check this out. This is awesome. Now, give me 1 second here. Let me get this set up here. Let me get past the, they have like a 14-second commercial, so I'm playing it in my ear real quick so you don't have to hear it. They're trying to sell me a Cadillac first, so give me a minute. All right, here we go. There it is. Okay, so check this out. There was actually a report. I'm going to read it to you, and then we'll watch the video on it. But now the way that they cover it, as in what they say here, you know, with the headline, you know, it feels so reductive in a way when you look at the headline, though, because it's a neighborly feud ends in man's arrest. And it's like, yeah, no, I don't think it's a neighborly feud that's ending in everything. I mean, it's a lot more than that. You know, like someone else said, when you got your $75,000 bond, yeah, it's a little bit more than a quote-unquote neighborly feud that actually has a little bit going on. I mean, again, it's absolute craziness. I'm not surprised that John Cook got arrested. I actually expected it, though, to be, I don't know, I expected some kind of drug crime or something first. I mean, what about you? You know, but all joking aside, it shows you that these people very much are dangerous. So I'm going to read you this, and then we're going to watch this video on it. Again, actually ends up in a news report, which is fascinating to see. It's not a long news report, but it still exposes. And there, also, the Hale's, interestingly enough, he uploaded, you know, it was kind of fascinating because today he uploaded something that goes back to the beginning. It talks about, you know, the protective order, how all of that, you know, it shows you how some of this plays out. And it's kind of crazy. You know, he pays in turtles. I mean, that's wild. You know, if John Cook ends up walking around, then you have to question who's paying the bill. You know what I mean? Like, if John Cook actually, he heads up free, you have to really question. Somebody noted Trump got shot. Yeah, I just talked about that at the very beginning. I saw that, actually, you know, with the Donald Trump thing. And what's crazy, though, is the news. Again, the news reporting on that is, at the very beginning, it wasn't reported like a shot thing. It was reported like a, you know, again, like you got hit by a tomato or something. It was very crazy, you know, the way they reported that. But yeah, I mentioned that at the beginning. I just, you know, we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. But again, that's how you get somebody in office, and it's craziness. So anyway, I'm going to read this to you here. Otter Creek, Florida. People are coming to town and from out of state to a place called Tubetown, created by a well-known social media personality. One visitor says they were threatened, and now one man will go to jail before a judge Friday morning. Tubetown is based on YouTube channel What You Doing, Willis. Wes Drachny was visiting with his family from Illinois to come and sign a guest book and get a bumper sticker at Tubetown. But he says when he was leaving, the neighbor across the street pulled out a pow-pow. I mean, that's crazy. Like I said, we saw the video. We saw him talking about that and more. You know, come in, again, from Illinois, too. So they come in all the way from Illinois just to have somebody do that. For my 8-year-old to see that, she was just crying. 60-year-old John Crook is in Levy County Jail and charged with aggravated assault after he was accused of threatening Drockney and his family last week. Drockney's daughter saw a blessing box in Cook's front yard, but he says he called her back to the car after she went over. He says Cook yelled at them, so he rolled down his window. I was like, what do you want? Or what'd you say, rather? And you can imagine that, you hear yelling and stuff, and you're like, wow, what the heck's going on? And he goes, do whatever you want. I was like, what? And he goes, do whatever you want. He yells again, and I'm like, what are you talking about? And he goes, you're going to lose anyway. So again, when you're looking at this, see, I had a little time to process that. And what's crazy about it is essentially this guy, he thinks it's somebody attached to the Hales. He thinks it's somebody attached to Jeremy Hale, He's out here, conspiracy in his mind. You're going to lose anyway. It's like, what the heck? So you got a little kid here, a lady with them, this guy, you got an 8-year-old in the car. You got a crazy person standing out, and the blessing box. Yeah, they tried to bless you, all right. They tried to bless you with live fire. And that's nuts, though. However, there's two sides of the story. Cook's wife, Michelle Preston, wasn't home when the incident took place, but doesn't believe Cook would do that. No, he wouldn't do anything like that. He would never pull out a pow-pow. He's never been caught on video doing that kind of madness. I mean, what you talking about there? He's the greatest citizen ever. Didn't you know that? Oh, my God. That's nuts there. What's up, Janice? Thanks for the 20 there, by the way. Cook is a year younger than me and looks twice my age. Lienette looks twice her age, too. Yeah, I was shocked by the age there. I mean, look, let me mark this real quick. So, okay, the man, let me mark where I'm at. I mean, when you look at the man, I thought I had to pull up. Give me 1 second. I want to pull up that rest freaking photo. I mean, it's nuts when you look at it. He looks rough. Give me 1 second here. That was Yellow Flash. Yellow Flash is like, dude, have you seen what happened with Donald Trump? Holy, I was like, yeah, I saw it. Didn't indeed see it. My phone is blowing up about it. And like, oh man. Give me 1 second. Pulling up that mug shot. It's wild though, because when you look at him, so here it is. Here's the thumbnail on that. Check this out here. So when you actually look at the man, I mean, he looks rough. And of course, I kind of expect, there's certain chemicals that'll do that to a person, I mean, look at that. That guy looks terrible. He looks absolutely terrible here. Yeah, Cook and Lienette, I mean, we've heard a little bit of what goes on their property, how they live. We've seen some of that. And, I mean, we've seen the past, too. That's one of the things that's really telling about these folks. We've actually seen at least a snapshot. I don't want to say we've seen their past, because there's a lot more in their past than what we've seen. But we've seen a snapshot of what was there and how they live, and it's wild. The same thing with Lienette, too. I mean, they look haggard. It's astounding. And you know what's amazing? When I heard about these people, and I heard about how they were acting and everything, I had this mental impression. You get this kind of idea about what these people are going to look like. And guess what? They look exactly like you would expect them to. It blows my mind because it's like, yeah, I kind of expected that guy to look like that. I mean, didn't it? When you heard about, like, if you were to just describe John Cook, I would describe the behavior, I would describe the substances and more. Wouldn't you expect him to kind of look like this? You know what's funny too is they're out there. They try to spin themselves like, oh, you know, when we see all the spin that comes from Lienette, talking about herself, talking about family, talking about them as essentially good guys. Did they strike you as that? Did they strike you as some fun-loving people out there, or did they strike you as a bunch of alleged meth heads? Because that's what they look like. I mean, you know, and again, you look at the behavior. You look at I live in the U.S. South, the Appalachians, so we see a lot of poverty, you know, and there's a big difference between people that are living in poverty, people that don't have means, and people that are living this life. A lot of times people get the two confused. You know, they'll say, oh, well, you know, you've seen them with the shit shack, and you've seen this, and you've seen that. Well, actually, you don't really know what's caused. Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. You know? They run a freaking supposed turtle sanctuary. All the turtles, you know, of course, they've dipped out. They've been lent out to people. You know, they're never returned. It's kind of like reading a freaking, like kind of reading a sign-in sheet at a Roach Motel or something. You know, it's checking in, but it's not checking out. I mean, again, he looks exactly like you would expect. And so does she. I mean, nothing shocking about that at all. When I've explained this, see, I've told a few people about this outside in the real world. You know, I talked to people today. In fact, we were at a birthday party for a relative. You know, they're asking about certain things. They're going on, you know, what exactly covering, you know, are there any new cases? I was telling them about this. And it was fascinating because when you go through all the behavior and everything else, again, you know, you show them picture, because I was like, yeah, there was an arrest made in this. This stuff is crazy. My family members like, yeah, looks like the type. Looks exactly like the type. That's not stereotyping, mind you. That's survival skill. That should actually be something that we know. I would never. Here's the thing too. Like, if you saw these people, would you let relatives or anyone else near them? Absolutely not. You know? Would you let your loved ones near them? No way whatsoever. So it's fascinating. I mean, when you look at them again, they look exactly like you expect. Janice, by the way, thanks for 20. Lienette says she's paralyzed to her property, but she told the news she wasn't home at the time during the incident. Well, you know, not just that. She drives around. You know, she rides around and stuff. Remember when they had their inspection? Remember, they weren't there. They were out doing, and she was out, you know, she was out opening up storage and all of this, but they've been running around. You know, she paints herself just like John Cook. They paint themselves as victims, and it's the craziest reality versus fantasy. Because when this is discussed by certain people, including them, they paint themselves as the poor victims of these mean old YouTubers. And yet, so, continuing this story here, and again, we'll watch the video in a second. He said that a man had driven by it slow, filming, and that a man had shouted something at him, and he'd been behind the magnolia tree. Now imagine this. There's a dude that has gone out to Tube Town. Okay? So he's been out here. He was just checking out everything, you know, that was to offer. Then he's got a little kid with him. And the thing with this, too, is this is not going to fly as an excuse. Not only is it a bullshit excuse, but it won't fly. Because at the end of the day, they endangered not just two adults, but they endangered a child as well. But of course, they're going to go in and try to spin it. And that's actually really bad for them. Because you know what? They've tried to spin so many other things. And this problem right here, it's not just going to up and go away. It's not like the way that they've been dealing with Jeremy Hale. Again, it's a tragedy the way that Jeremy Hale's been treated in this, and the way that George has been treated in this. Because again, they've treated it like it's some kind of joke. You know, the authorities have. And yet, so he's saying a man drove by slow. He was filming. Now, of course, you know he wasn't filming. Like, that doesn't work either. And you know why you know that doesn't work? Because if he was just driving around filming, you would have had film of the confrontation. If he was out there trying to instigate something, you know, if he was trying to, if he was yelling at John Cook, causing issues and stuff, the man, he had recordings, but they were recordings, again, of Tubetown. They were recordings of his child going over, taking a few pictures, doing stuff. I mean, this scenario is absolutely insane what they're trying to say. I mean, again, yeah, the guy, boy, he's a big bad menace. Like, he's driving down the road, he's yelling out things with a child on board like that. You know, while they've gone out and, again, taken pictures of Tubetown and everything, it doesn't even make sense. If the guy was going to go do something like that, why wouldn't he have gone and, why would he bring a kid with him? But of course, you know, got to spin it, just like they spun the Hales. And they got away with it. Like, Jeremy Hale has been very correct in one thing. When people get away with something over and over again, they don't curb their behavior. See, law enforcement and laws, they aren't there as punitive. They're not there to punish. They're there to curb behavior. There are punishments, sure, but the whole thing is, it's supposed to stop something. It's supposed to curb the behavior that you saw. If it would have been done correctly, we would have never gotten to this point at all. But for some reason in Levy County, I'll let you draw your own conclusions to why. They've decided that this kind of behavior is somehow acceptable. I mean, it's madness, you know. It's madness, and it's been madness because they victim blamed Jeremy Hale, and they have victim blamed George throughout all of this. Tony, what's up? Thank you. Welcome. Thank you for your membership. Welcome to Tugs, by the way. Appreciate you. I mean, it's just madness when you see that. So continuing, anyway. He said that Cook yelled at him when Cook pointed his gun at their car. I'm thinking if I pull off, he's going to start shooting. What? So I wanted to try and talk to him. Preston says Cook was at home. And if he did pull out a gun, he had every right to do so. So, you know, now the whole thing there is, well, if he was there and he actually did it, well, he had every right to go out and pull that gun. That's the spin. So Lienette now, they're doubling down. They're like, well, if he did that, yeah, he had every right to go out and to pull that pow-pow on that 8-year-old. I mean, again, they're being exposed through their own bullshit. The way that they're trying to talk about this exposes them. It shows you exactly who they are. Because again, and they're being exposed through their own words. They're being exposed to the world. And again, if this gets out too, I would encourage people to share the arrest. Talk about exactly what happened. Talk about what's been going on with the Hales. Because, as you know, when you bring this up, it's a punctuation mark at the end of a very, very insane sentence. And they're coming in trying to pretend like everything somehow, yeah, that should happen. So, instantly, threw it in reverse. And when he did, his hand came out the window with something held out the window. John doesn't see very well. He couldn't tell the difference between a gun and a phone. So John is supposed to be the victim in here. Man, this guy driving around with his kid. No, he's not the victim in here. That kid's not the victim. Poor old John Cook, right? Oh, yeah, this person's driving by, again, trying to imagine this, with a little kid in the car. He throws his car into reverse. Supposedly, he's recording everything. That's what they're telling you, because he has a phone hanging out the window. Again, if he had recording of everything like that, you don't have the right, by the way, to pop out your pow. You can't put up a blessing box outside of your house telling people, yeah, take this dirty dead rat or whatever the heck's in there, I can't even envision. Poor child, by the way. Poor child. As a parent, and nothing with the guy that was out there either. I'm not pointing that at him. They stop by, the kid sees something, they're like, oh man, like my kids, they'd be like, oh, cool, a turtle sanctuary, oh man. And if you're a kid, you understand how you'd probably process that too. I mean, you've had Tube Town. You have all this stuff. They probably thought it was all together there. They didn't really understand that, no, there's a whack job on the other side of all of this stuff. And again, they put out something where they wanted to attract people. So they want to attract people, and yet John Cook, he's not only ready to confront, because you're going to lose, they're attached to Jeremy Hale, but also he's ready to, again, act with an extreme. So Levy County Sheriff's deputies say lack of evidence and conflicting statements hampered the investigation before a warrant was served. After that, evidence of the supposed assault were recovered, as well as the gun. Interesting. So let's check this out here together. Man, this is nuts.
Coming to Otter Creek from...
This is give me a second. Let me see if I can turn that up. Now, that's its highest volume, by the way. I'm going to turn it up just a second on my side, too.
Out of state because of a social media influencer. And one person says they were threatened, and another man will now face a judge tomorrow because of it. TV20's Kayla Lewis breaks down the two sides of the story.
Right behind me is a place called Tube Town here in Otter Creek, based on a YouTube channel. Wes Dockery was visiting with his family from Illinois to come and sign this guest book. But he says when...
I like that. They popped up the guest book there. So you can see, again, everything fits the description of the story, I mean, he's out there. He said he wanted to sign the guest book. There's the guest book right there. It's popped out. I mean, that's wild. It all fits up. It all fits up right away there.
When he was leaving, the neighbor across the street pulled out a gun.
For my 8-year-old to see that, and then she just was crying.
60-year-old John Cook is in the Levy County Jail and charged with aggravated assault after he was accused of threatening Dockery and his family last week. Dockery says Cook yelled at them, so he rolled down his window.
And I was like, what'd you say? And he goes, do whatever you want. I was like, what? And he goes, do whatever you want. Yelled it again. I'm like, what are you talking about? And he goes, you're going to lose anyway.
Now, you notice something. I mean, this has been constant, too. One important detail, and a judge will look at this, law enforcement's supposed to look at this and everything. When you have the story of the person that's gone through this, has their story deviated in any way, shape, or form? No. Now, I saw, I'm going to say, a troll when we were covering this when it first broke. And somebody in the chat, going through, was like, well, his story, you're getting more detail. Absolutely. Absolutely. That is not a negative in any way. I mean, you think about that. If you've ever been in a high-stress situation, you get that adrenaline pumping, You know, whether it doesn't matter what's there. I mean, if you really think about it, you have a scare like that, especially if you have somebody else with you. You know, a kid. You're afraid somebody might get hurt. In those kind of situations, sometimes you can't even remember your own freaking name. You know, you're trying to recover in the moment, but even then, 90% of the details that were thrown out, that's there. There's another 10% that comes in later. There's nothing that looks like embellishment. There were no lies really in the aftermath. And again, when you look at the way that it's being spun, that gives you an idea too. So you can also see, again, you know, when people are signing in, I mean, they're leaving their okay, so check this out.
But there's two sides of the story.
Two sides.
Cook's ex-wife, Michelle Preston, wasn't home.
Look at her, by the way, man. Oh my God. She tries to play herself out as this poor old lady. She's just been introduced to this terrible, terrible thing. Won't somebody come and save her? You know, and it's wild. I mean, you look at her, you look at John Cook. They don't look like nice old people. They don't even look like, you know, old people, again, that have lived hard, but, you know, they've gone out here to do something. They've lived through poverty. They look like the exact kind of people I would think I would find in the setup that I'm seeing.
When the incident took place, but doesn't believe Cook would do that.
He said that a man had drove by slow filming and that the man had shouted something to him, and he had been behind the magnolia tree.
Dockery says after
Look at
Cook
that.
yelled.
So, I mean, get this straight here. This is the story we're going to get. I mean, come on, look at this here. Let's
that a man had drove by slow filming and that the man had shouted something to him, and he had been behind the magnolia tree.
So, you know, the information, here's another thing that actually fits with this story too. Remember, John Cook was supposedly standing behind a tree. He goes into the way it was described. Again, you know, when the victim here talks about the stance that John Cook takes. Now, he takes a shooter stance. But he talks about him being over here behind the tree. So they're actually confirming certain details for you anyway. You know, again, there's video, so they're going to have problems denying. But isn't it fascinating? You know, the things that, again, no, that's a bunch of fiction. Oh, wait a minute. Having a little bit of problem. Because that fiction, they said, well, doesn't look so fiction anymore. So you got to spin it, right?
Dockery says after Cook yelled at him, that's when Cook pointed his gun at their car.
And I'm thinking, if I pull off, is he going to start shooting or what? So I want to try to talk him down.
Preston says...
Now, that's a smart move, by the way. I was talking about this, you know, when that happened. And this guy's confronted with the situation. And in that move, you don't know what's going to be the wrong move. You don't know if you speed off, if the guy's going to start shooting. You don't know if you sit there, if the guy's going to start shooting. But yeah, if they start, you know, if you try to take off in that, if he would have done that too, there might have not been anyone left to actually tell the tale. That's the insane thing as well. You know, depending on how that comes up. You know, there's a lot of acreage out there. God knows what you might be dealing with. That's a frightening scenario when you think about it. But he made the right call, you know, because he walked away. He walked away with an insane story. He actually accomplished what Jeremy Hale has not been able to accomplish either. And it's horrible that that happened. I'm not saying in any way, shape, or form that it's good that this happened, but it's amazing. Because this family right here has managed to accomplish what all that video proof before that didn't do, what all of these other items didn't do. And that's putting this guy in jail. And, you know, you've seen violations before. Now, Levy County is going to be forced to take this seriously. They have to, because they know people have seen it. They've seen exactly what transpired. You can no longer pretend it's not happening. Janice, thanks for 20 there, by the way. Lienette says she's totally disabled, but she ran like Usain Bolt when a deputy... When the deputy was there, complaining about Lienette, complaining Travis was playing Jeremy Hale's videos, running like Usain Bolt. That's a beautiful descriptor, by the way. I like that. I like that descriptor. In my mind, I'm seeing her like freaking take off like freaking lightning there. By the way, Jenna, thank you. Jenna, baby. Thanks for the $5 super sticker there. That's cute. Thank you. That's so crazy, though. All right, so let's continue.
Cook was at home, and if he did pull out his gun, he had every right to do so.
So you heard that, too. Now listen to this madness.
Instantly threw it in reverse, and when he did, his hand came out the window with something held out the window. John doesn't see very well. He couldn't tell the difference between a gun or a phone.
Levy County.
Are you kidding me, though? Again, like, seeing her try to spin this is wild, isn't it? So she's like, yeah, you know.
Reverse, and when he did, his hand came out the window with something held out the window. John doesn't see very well. He couldn't tell the difference between a gun or a phone.
I mean, again, you know, they're trying to spin the idea that this poor family is out here recording. John Cook, oh, he's out by the magnolia tree. He's just minding his own business. People stop by, they're yelling stuff. They throw the car in reverse. Arm pops out. Oh, man, John believes that there's a pow-pow being brandished in the moment. He just panics, and he has every right to do so. Well, I'm going to say, you're wrong, Lienette. You know why you're wrong? Because John's sitting in fucking jail right now. You know, he had again, or he was sitting in jail. I mean, it's just, if they were in the right there, again, if there was any way whatsoever they could have spun this, I have no doubt that Levy County would have spun this in their favor. I don't get the impression that they were ever going to do anything about this at all. So, if that spin would have worked. I mean, it's crazy too. Private property means something to a degree. Now, they're trying to play up the I was in fear for my life. Because, of course, you know, that's got to be part of it. You have to be in fear for your safety. You can't just go around waving a gun around like some kind of absolute moron, you know. It's scary, too. You know, I live out in nowhere. You know, now, we used to live way out in the middle of nowhere, by the way. And I absolutely had my own pow-pow in this. Because, you know, we had a 45-minute police response time. So if anything ever happened, of course, you need that, you know. But there's this thing with ownership, and it's supposed to be responsible ownership. And one of the things that's terrifying with responsible ownership are people like John Cook and Lienette. I mean, imagining them having access to a firearm. I mean, it creeps me out there. Something Norm, thanks for the 2. And if you heard that Trump got shot, yeah, I was talking about that at the beginning. I'll probably, after we roll through some stuff, I'll probably pull everything up and look and see if there's actually been any new development. Because again, you know, yeah, you had the footage of what happened. And the media, at first, again, if we didn't have the footage, they would have just had him getting hit by, I'm telling you, it would have been like a sharp tomato hit him or something. I mean, the way that they spun it, it was like, oh, we heard some popping sounds, you know. There was a little noise, and then a projectile hit him. I was like, yeah, I don't think that's a projectile. But yeah, I definitely did. It's nuts.
The county sheriff's deputies say lack of evidence and conflicting statements hampered the investigation before a warrant was served. After that, evidence of the supposed assault was recovered as well as the gun. In Otter Creek, Kayla Lewis, TV 20 News.
Now, that's actually really telling in the statement in this, too, because they're noting, again, listen to this.
Add evidence of the supposed assault was recovered as well as the gun.
Now, they had enough probable cause to go in and look at this from the beginning. You can't tell me I've seen enough people be arrested that met probable cause. I mean, they're describing this incident. They're describing the firearm. I mean, there is definitely probable cause there. They're going to meet the burden of it. But they don't go in and they don't do anything about this. They quote-unquote investigate. And not only do they investigate, but they take their investigation, essentially what they kept saying over and over again to this poor guy, his family, to George, to other members of the community, was that they had to go out and they were met with the burden of proof. And that's crazy, because they kept asking for video clarification. They kept asking for something undeniable there. And that shows you not just how lazy these people are, but it also shows you just how wrong they are. Because like I was saying the other day, when we talked about this the first time, if all of this required somebody to have video evidence, then we would have never seen arrests before video. How did people actually, how did they get arrested? Before the days of cell phones and before the days of trail cams. How did they still get arrested? I mean, there are places, where you're not going to have that type of proof. And in the immediate, the scary thing about this is that they let John Cook operate for an additional week, knowing that this man could very well be a danger to anyone that's out there. But then again, I'm not surprised by that at all, because they have allowed this man to continue to do flagrant things with, again, threats of ending Jeremy Hale. The hole in the pocket story, as Jeremy Hale talks about it. I mean, they've had proof. They've had proof. It's just that they didn't want to see it. Because if they don't see it, if they don't admit there's a crime, they don't admit there's a problem, then they don't actually have to address it. What's up, Janice? Thanks for the 10 there. Appreciate that, too. It was Lienette and Crook's own video that got them arrested. Here's a question on that, too. How fucking stupid do you have to be? Like, the police basically came out there and they said this. They said, I'm going to paraphrase, but this is what them showing up at the property and them saying all of this, it actually says. It says, dump the evidence. See, in that moment, what I was thinking, before the arrest, when I first heard about this, is that there's no way there's going to be any evidence that's going to come from Lienette. It's going to come from John Crook, because they're going to burn it all, But then again, I underestimated stupidity. Like, that's the thing, the burden of stupid is stupid. And these people are very, very stupid. In fact, let me pull something up here. Give me 1 minute here. Give me a minute. Let me pull this up here. There's actually discussion about the, man, I'm skipping, I hate to show certain things here. Give me 1 minute. So, Jeremy just uploaded a video. I want to discuss this, but I don't want to take any views away from it, okay? So that's something that I want to make clear, too. Like, I want all of you to go and check this video out, because they're talking about the first hearing You know, the rest of. It's a shell thing. Look at that. Isn't that creepy, by the way? Oh, my God. I mean, you know, go in and discuss everything that happened there. But check this out. And again, I want you to check the whole thing out here. You know, you can see the discussion. There's discussions with the messages. Give me a second. You know, he talks about like all of the craziness they've done. Give me 1 minute. It's not. And then, though, you have the first hearing. So check this out. I wanted to include this. Again, make sure the Hales anyway, even if I cover something that's 15 years old, I want you to understand something in this. They're still experiencing it. Just because they've given a slight reprieve in some way. You know, because John Cook is actually experiencing some type of consequence to his action. It doesn't mean that everything is okay. In fact, it can be quite the opposite. You know, when a very dumb animal is cornered, what does a very dumb animal do? Well, an endangered animal by itself may lash out and try to hurt you. But a very stupid animal, well, God knows what it might try to do. Check this out here.
Good morning, Mr. Cook.
Look at him there,
Mr.
by the
Cook,
way. It looks like he's been on a chain gang, doesn't he? He does, doesn't he? It looks awful in there. Like, it looks even worse. I mean, he's somehow managed to make his jail uniform look gross and dingy. I mean, it looks like he's been wallowing in it. Like he actually took it out and was rolling around on the ground at the turtle sanctuary. Doesn't it look like that? I mean, it makes you question. It makes you think, what the heck there, you know? Yeah. Those are the people who are like, those are the cleanest clothes I've ever seen him wearing. That's nuts.
You're being held on a charge of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. Do you understand your rights as I've explained them to you?
Yes.
Can you afford to hire your own lawyer?
No.
Would you like for the court to appoint the Office of the Public Defender to represent you?
Yes.
Thank you.
So right there, he's going to have a problem too. You know, public defenders, again, we're talking about people that are overworked all the freaking time. They're dealing with quite the issue. And despite that, they still try to go out and they still try to do. I'm not trying to insult them there. But, you know, people that are really invested in you getting away with something, that's going to be private. You're going to bring in your own lawyers. The DA's office, they're going to encourage you to take any kind of deal that you can. You know, you're going to have that, and then you're going to have the public defender that's going to be like, yeah, you probably need to do that, which is actually good advice given the fact that, you know, again, they're going to try to make this the best defense that they can give. You're not talking about, again, you know, bringing in some outsider, throwing tens of thousands of dollars at something. No, you're going to have these people, they're going to meet up. You know, they don't like to, they could prosecute. But typically, again, they will offer something because prosecutors don't like to prosecute. Like it's a very open thing. It's not a secret at all. Prosecutors, they enjoy taking the path of least resistance. That path of least resistance. You get a deal, you offer something, but this is bad. And again, you know, you can't just wish it away. It's not the same thing that they've been dealing with. Because, you know, when Jeremy Hale talked about this was like some kind of abstraction. You know, like it didn't exist, sort of. But it did exist. It was happening.
I'll do so. And we'll hear from the state. Your Honor, he does have a prior failure to appear as recent as 2016.
You hear that?
He has no other history since 2016. He does have prior adjudications of violence.
So check this out. Listen to that again.
No.
She's saying he has in 2016, failure to appear, and they're talking about his history. So, I mean, listen to this.
Would you like for the court to appoint the Office of the Public
Sorry, I jumped back a
Defender
little
to
bit farther.
represent
I just want you to catch this part.
Thank you, I'll do so. And we'll hear from the state.
All right, so here they go again.
Your Honor, he does have a prior failure to appear as recent as 2016.
So he has a failure to appear as recent as 2016.
He has no other history since 2016. He does have prior adjudications of violence. I believe the most recent, and that is 2003.
So he has a history of violence. Now, again, it's when you look at this guy, I mean, if you were looking at him on paper, this is the way that he should have been looked at by Levy County, by the way. This guy, even though it's in the past, he still has a history of violence. So you're talking about somebody that, again, he does pose a threat. As far as Jeremy and George are concerned, they didn't, like Ohio, took them seriously. And they're like, yeah, this guy, all of this behavior here, there needs to be something in place so these people cannot do this stuff. Levy County, though, when presented with all of this, actually treated them like the victim. Despite the past history, despite the video evidence, despite the fact that you have not only this overwhelming proof, but on top of the overwhelming proof, you also have like a mountain of people in a small town. You know, again, when you figure 100+ people, when you have over, dozens of people that are saying, hey, these people, they're crazy. I mean, you're not talking about a few people. When 25 to 40% of your population is like, hey, these people are dangerous. You think about that in the terms of, again, like where I live. Okay, I say I'm from a small town. Okay, well, you're not going to get 10% of the population here to be able to point out something. You're not going to get, low single, but in a town like that, you have all these people pointing out, again, history of violence, but the victims, I mean, with video evidence.
The state would request that a bond is set and would defer to the court. Thank you. On behalf of the defense.
Your Honor, I'm unable to confirm the history at this time. I don't have that Levy County paperwork, but we would just request a reasonable bond.
So, that doesn't bode well for him either. Again, they've just been assigned to this, right? But the lack of preparation, a good attorney, like if you paid money, if I were paying the $400 to $600 an hour that some people are going to charge, they would come in there, and even if they weren't prepped in any way, shape, or form, they would be able to, say certain things that don't make me look, I don't know, guilty. They would make statements. They wouldn't defend actions, but they would go to bat talking about how, there's not been a history within the last, X amount of years. I'm not going to present any type of flight risk, blah, blah, blah. You've seen how that plays out. But again, we're not talking about that. We are talking, again, I'm not dumping on these folks. They have an insane workload. But that you don't want a public defender defending you. Your best great option is bringing in somebody that's going to protect you rights. And, well, He's not going to have that. So all the spin in the world, telling the newspaper that he had the right to do it, that's actually, that's not good for you. Now, he, of course, did not say those words, by the way. He's been a little, let's say he's been indisposed. It's going to be hard for him to be out there spinning things, when he's locked up. It kind of makes it a little difficult to do that. But Lienette's been out there. Lienette's been making her statements. And like I said, that doesn't make you look good at all. Ugh. He thinks of fine there. How is he allowed to have a pew-pew with a history of violence? How is he not arrested on the FTA? Well, that's a very good question, actually. Not only that, I mean, think about what happened with Jeremy Hale, okay? You think about the thing that brought everybody to this. It wasn't the fact that Jeremy Hale was having problems, as the media talked about it, as he was having a neighborly dispute gone wrong. No, the reason that lawyers talked about it, the reason that independent journalists talked about it, was because he was losing his rights. You remember that? He is not allowed to have a firearm. He had that right taken away, and he had several other rights taken away. They tried to take away. I won't say this is the most alarming. I find not being able to defend yourself against a person like this with a history of violence, I find it very alarming that you are not allowed to have a firearm or really have anybody around you that has a firearm. Like that, to me, that is terribly frightening. But they tried to take away his ability to talk about it. They tried to hold him accountable for the words and actions of any random person out there. And you really think about how far that could go. We talked about that. We talked about it in the moment, but one of the things that wasn't discussed, people treated it like it would be, say, I say something, or DUI guy says something, Megan says something. What if Lienette or John Crook said something? What if they create accounts online? They actually go in and they harass and stalk. They cause it to look like something's going on. And these people, again, with their crazy history, they could end up getting somebody put in jail or much worse. It's bad when getting somebody put in jail might be one of the most reasonable outcomes that some crazy person like this could actually go for. Sue Scott, thanks for the 10 there. Tug, think about it. Why isn't the Ohio protective order showing up? What the fuck? On the Federal Registry? That's actually a very good question. That is. And again, a lot of times, I'm going to go out on a limb and say this is a lack of preparation. This isn't people being ready for what's going on. I think that there's probably a lot of documentation, if you look this up correctly, that would show up. It's just a matter of doing it. Again, we've seen so much ineptitude, and it's frustrating in this as it's played out, that I don't really feel, until I see some kind of real consequence for something, I don't feel that they're capable of doing their job. We've seen on every level, as far as Levy County, as far as really any institution in Florida, because people have tried to take this up with other institutions too, it has been a system-wide failure. Some of it is corruption, I would dare say, but some of it is ineptitude, gross ineptitude. And I think you get confronted with that. So why isn't something showing up? Oh, it may well be. It's just, the people here, these are also, when you think about this too, the way that a lot of jurisdictions see something like this, they see this as a quote-unquote minor crime. It's not, by the way. When it deals with your safety, I am not saying that either. Let me make that very clear. Some of the things, like if you personally face something, The state is supposed to be your advocate. I can't bring in a lawyer and defend my rights if somebody does something terrible to me. I don't have the ability to do that. My advocate, and they run on this, is the state prosecutor. You know, the state, when they're coming in and they're going to do something about it, that's what you depend on. Unfortunately, that depends on the fact that they do their job. So, Denise thinks of the 20 there. Everyone is assuming Crook brought his firearm legally, and it's registered. That's true, too. Even I know where to buy an illegal firearm if I want it, but I don't need a legal firearm. I mean, that's true, too. Actually, firearms, you know, they're very easy to get a hold of. It could be someone else's. It could be registered in someone else's name. You know, there could be a lot of reasons why he was allowed to procure one. The only thing about that would be, I would expect if he was holding an illegal firearm, we would see a charge about that. But then again, that could go to ineptitude. I don't know. I would expect, though, there to be something about that. You know? But again, what do I know, right? What do I know? Well, let's continue on this.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Cook, the court does find probable cause for the charges. As a condition of any release, you're not to have any direct or indirect contact with the listed victim, Wesley Dockery. Do not call, text, write. Do not try to contact Mr. Dockery through social media, through a third party. No contact whatsoever. Jail staff just handed you a copy of the no contact order. As a condition of any release, you're not to possess any weapons or firearms. Given the allegations contained within the arrest report, the court is going to set bond in this matter, and bond's going to be set at $75,000. Thank you, Mr.
So you think about that. I mean, with $75,000, so you're going to have to come up with a percentage of that. You know, if there's any place out there that wants to bond you out too, you never know. You know, I'm sure you could find some place to do it. There's always some place that would do it. $75,000 though. So to get your percentage, what is that? 10%? I mean, it might as well, but you know, dealing with these folks, you might as well have said $7 million. That's what I would think about it. I mean, I'm not sure they have enough to really hawk and to come up with the amount of money that they need. But you know what's crazy in that statement too? So as the condition to this, he's not supposed to be out interacting, threatening, doing anything like that. He's not supposed to possess a weapon. Huh, that's weird. He's already been told that before. You would think that somebody, again, they're gonna have a hearing in a few days. They're actually going to talk about, you know, what's supposed to happen with them. And this is definitely going to come up. There is no way on earth this doesn't. And again, if for some reason you haven't, make sure you play. I'm not going to play this entire video out. It's a brand new video. It came out 2 hours ago. It's got quite a bit of information in it as well. You should definitely check it out. It's on the What the Hell's channel. But even if we covered an entire thing, you should, you know, again, these people have been dealing with this. They've been dealing with it for how long now? Finally, something's transpiring. But as far as the case is concerned, you know, the case that they're dealing with, this isn't going to magically make anything go away. It does prove what Jeremy Hale, it's going to be hard for them to argue away what's happened here, but.
Cook. And was the public defender appointed? I didn't hear you.
Look at him there.
Was the public defender appointed? Yes, I did appoint the Office of the Public Defender. Thank you.
As of right now, the state is going after one aggravated assault with a deadly weapon.
1 second there. Yes, so that's a key That's a key in that as well. So as of now they have the ability to go in and to treat charges however they see fit. So the state doesn't have to stick with that. The state can go in and they can adjust charges how they see fit. But when you're looking at that, yes, indeed, they're actually going after this with, there should be 3 charges. But there's not. There's actually, at this time, 1. Sue, thanks for the 2 there. What about it? Ohio court? What the? Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You know, again, what it said to me, though, is the Hales they are having to build this thing and get everything taken care of. They're going to have to, I guess people are going to have to point this out to say, hey, did you realize, by the way, that these people that you're talking about, they're also, they're under orders not to have done anything like that because, they're already not only being told by Ohio, you don't need to engage in X, Y, Z behavior, but on top of that, they violated. Again, they shouldn't have been out there to do this. And I believe personally, the state there should be shamed for it. They should be absolutely shamed. Now, one of the things while leading up to this, give me 1 second, that I thought was just fascinating. Jeremy uploaded a video that, let me pull this up here because I thought this was pretty good. Like after all of this happened, again, you have more eyes on the prize, and I think that's very important. But it's allowed him to talk about what is going on. And it is a very telling video because you get to see the manipulation Lienette has tried to utilize and successfully utilized, I'm going to say. When you look through this, you look at her accusations. She brings up the case in Ohio. She brings up all of this stuff, as the video. And again, check this video out. I'm not trying to pull any views from them. Some people do that. I'm not, like I said, I find this fascinating. I think it's for people who have not seen this, how it's played out. This is a worthwhile addition. So let's check this out here. Because again, this shows you, just like her interview, just how manipulative all of this stuff is. How they try to spin. They've tried to spin Jeremy Hale as the aggressor. They tried to spin Ohio like it was some kind of retaliatory thing. Oh, Your Honor, he's been out here. He's done all of this mess. And the crazy thing is that the judge, the statements that he makes, they're helpful statements. They're not neutral statements. They're helpful. Poor you. Poor the victim. He takes a stance in this. You can hear it. So let's check this out. It's worth very well checking out.
He was offered a resolution through Ohio that we both would agree to not say anything about each other.
John Crook has officially been arrested on 3 counts of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. How did this all begin? I'm about to show you court footage that no one has ever seen before.
Yeah, I mean, this is wild, too. So you'd see how, manipulative and crazy this stuff is.
Lienette and Crook stalked me to Otter Creek. They wanted money. They wanted promotion. They wanted fame. And now they have it for all the wrong reasons.
For real.
Crook has been arrested. He's looking at potentially 15 plus years in jail. Not to mention, he has court next week in Ohio for breaking the civil protection order, as does Lienette. Anybody's guess who's going to jail next. Could be Lienette, could be somebody else. We're going to find out. How did it all start, though? It started when these 2 creeps started to do horrific...
Aggravated assault, by the way. I was looking this up to see exactly how this sets up. Now listen to this. This is, again, the AI overview. I'm not actually pulling up the sentencing or anything. This sounds like a topic to have as we get further into this discussion, as we see consequences or the lack thereof actually play out. But listen to this here. So, in Florida, Aggravated assault is a third-degree felony that can result in up to 5 years in prison. Now, listen to all of it, okay? Because there's an inclusion for firearms, too. So it can end up 5 years in prison, $5,000 fine, or both. Now, the defendant may also face a minimum mandatory sentence, especially if a firearm is involved. So, when a firearm gets involved, you may have to get a minimum sentence under the law. So they'll again, they may offer the man a deal, but under sentencing guidelines, the firearm takes it to another level. You're not talking about somebody going out and shoving an individual or, meeting the bare requisite for this. We're talking about somebody that has actually gone out and they've done something very serious. So, Florida's 10-20 life law imposes a minimum sentence of 10 years if a firearm was involved, 20 years if a firearm was discharged, 25 to life if someone was injured or killed by a firearm. Now that's going to be an interesting discussion as we start looking at sentencing guidelines. We see exactly, when we start seeing more of this play out, it's going to be fascinating because, we're talking about how they could add on some type of sentence to this. They can add on more individuals because again, it wasn't just one individual that had their life endangered. You're talking about 3 individuals, so they could impose harsher. This is, they could go on and again 3 people, or they can do the opposite. They can reduce that too. So, they probably need some pressure applied, I'm just going to say. And I'm hoping that they understand. The pressure, this is pressure right here. This guy right here talking about this, going out to an audience, hundreds of thousands of people, that applies pressure. On top of that, you have other people discussing this too. So, that applies even more pressure. When you have, again, like a Megan or a DUI guy or other people discussing it, it continues to apply pressure. Pimp Poppy, thanks for vibe. Trump just got shot. Check the news. Yeah, I saw it at the beginning. Like I said, I'll talk about that probably some at the end here. I noticed like there's 20 people live streaming about that, and I know too. It's a wild story. It is. It's wild. I hate to say story. It's a wild development. And I think personally, this is just my opinion on that, that's how you put somebody in office. Because all of the coverage, it will point out insanity. And you've already had all these other issues. This will galvanize support. You can hate what I'm saying in that, but that's that's the way I perceive that. You have people, that'll look at that. They will see that. They'll see the media coverage. Yeah, it'll galvanize support. I very much think that. So unless something just insane happens, that and anything can happen, but unless something even crazier happens, and that Lord, that right there, unless something crazier happens, I very much think that's how you put somebody in office, right there. I'm not saying that, I'm saying the craziness. Again, people will look at that and they'll say, why? And that's how you end up with somebody in office, for sure. But it's something to talk about in a minute. And Flashcast tonight. I'll probably go on Flashcast for a while. That'll be on Yellow Flash's channel. And that's pretty much what will be talked about, I'm sure, the whole time. Angel, thanks for the 5 there. The feds need to look at the deep-seated corruption in Levy County. State of Florida. Yes, indeed. The assistant attorney dropped the Hale's case. Yeah, they need to look at it, and they need to look at not only the ineptitude, like I said, or corruption. The state will look at it. The state never takes blame either. Like that's what's going to happen. You're going to see that in any case, like a Baldwin case, for example, right? We're just going to throw that in there. You saw that case just got, you had a Brady violation. No matter what you think, guilt or innocence on there, the state, they screwed up in that. Now, the reason I bring that up is because do you see anybody getting blame in it? No. They're going to get blamed from the outside. Maybe something will happen, but not really. Because the people that control sentencing there, they're never held up. In fact, they'll double and triple and quadruple down, because ultimately, this kind of stuff, it can cost them their jobs. It can point out, it can put a microscope on them. So they don't want that. But the problem is, again, this guy and his family, they were very brave in this situation. But this guy and his family did more than Jeremy Hale or anybody could accomplish, because at every opportunity to finally do something, they were blocked. Nobody would do anything. But again, they couldn't ignore this. They tried. They tried to ignore it, but it got to the point they couldn't. Again, it's amazing too. There were all these calls about, it's not just, like, you think about this, so everybody's talking about what they've ignored with the Hales and history of violence stuff. Another thing that's been ignored over and over again, safety of a child. I mean, if these people are so out of control that they're doing these kind of things, then maybe there's a little bit of legitimacy to the danger presented with John Cook on that property. Even if they want to go in and they want to excuse Lienette and say that she's never done anything wrong, at the end of the day, one of the things that she says is that Crook was dangerous. She herself says it. She said that he had accosted her, that he was a violent man. She made all kinds of statements about him. So her going in and her defending him now, that's almost like a distorted laugh track when you think about it, because she went out, she made the accusations that the man is violent, that he is dangerous. And the state, when they sent in investigators to see this, they did nothing. They went in, they looked at living conditions, they had multiple reports about how this was an endangerment to the kids, or I'm sorry, to the kid rather. I say kids, because I'm thinking about the new kid here, but to this kid, they treated that like it was a YouTuber that was engaging in harassment. Oh, he's just galvanizing his audience. He's making them do this. No, fuck no. It was people looking at this and they thought, man, this is a danger. And yet, nothing happened. And there were multiple reports about that. Again, Lienette's own words, her own words, said that he was a danger. So, I mean, when you're looking at that, that's just nuts to me. Thanks for the two there. Wes is in the chat, the victim. Hey, Wes, what's up, man? You got a lot of support, by the way, my friend. You do. I hope you understand that. I saw something very, very disturbing, if true. I saw somebody talking about how you and your family in that, you had people that were trying to harass you because of this. If that is indeed true, you let me know. You let me know the who, too. I can imagine who I think it is, but if we have some people out there that want to take aim at you as a victim, and want to take aim at you as at your family as victims in that, like I've said before, there are many victims of these people. We've had multiple victims. The multiple victims, they have ranged from family members. We interviewed them. We talked to them. They had documentation behind them, too. And we're supposed to ignore that. We have the Hales. They have documentation, video evidence. This stuff was just flagrantly ignored. People came after all these folks. They the people that live there, oh man, you know, that they'd insult and degrade them. They, you know, be like, oh, a bunch of rubes, you know, who they would insult, they would attack and degrade them. People want to come after you? Nuh-uh. No, it's not going to happen, man. So if that stuff is indeed true, no way. No way. You've got support there. You know? I'm disgusted by that. Because, you know, and again, you did nothing wrong. In fact, like, I think quite the opposite. I thought this was handled in a way most people would not have the clarity of mind to look at that situation and to think, how do I de-escalate? See, that's another thing that points out the lie to me. You know, not on your side, but on their side. Because trying to figure out how to detangle yourself from this situation, to protect the safety of your kid and everything else. Again, you know, do I sit here and try to calm this person down? That obviously, I mean, they're yelling about you're going to lose and everything. That's craziness. You can tell that you know, that's disjointed thinking. That honestly, again, I'm not remote diagnosing anyone. I must say that before this, you know, because there's a liability component that comes in there. So I'm not diagnosing anyone. I will say that we have seen many people that have been impacted by drugs. We've seen the impacts of drug-induced psychosis. And I'm not just talking about in the moment when people are drinking or they're utilizing substances. I'm talking about in the aftermath. You know, a lifetime of substance use combined with the fact that these people have gotten away with things over and over again. Yeah. Max Lab, thanks for the 2. Telling my Wes to join you live on camera. If you want to, if you want, you can hit me up. Let me put my email. I don't know if you're able to do that. If you are, you can come on and talk about something. I'll drop I have a Twitter too if it's easier, but let me put my email here and I'll look at it. Again, I don't know what's going on. I don't even know if you want to do that, but if you did email, I can email you a link in here. You know, like I said, you're allowed to, you have support. For sure. I think Crook thought Wes was Travis to get away with behavior. I don't know. I mean, you know. But yeah, I mean, if people want to post the YouTube channel and everything, again, you know, and that's putting you right on the spot. But if you want to contact, if you want to come on and talk about something, you are more than welcome to as well. I'll check the, you know, and if people, if you answer and I don't see, like, you're like, yes, just let me know in the chat. And if chat would amplify that too. If there's a yes, be like, Tug said yes, and I'll keep watching for it. We'll make it work, okay?
Vile things. Post and say horrific, vile things. And then we announce on the Sunday Night Live, we're going to get civil protection orders in Ohio against these two. And then Lienette post afterwards.
Wait. So Lillian said they came out, looked at criminal records up, posted, and basically called them liars, then accused him of putting his daughter in danger, bringing them to tube down. What the fuck? Are you kidding me? Like, I've thought about going out. Like, see, I heard the same thing. This pisses me off because again, I've not dealt with something like that, but I went in 2019. I was covering a different case, okay, and I went to a convention, you know, to basically see how things were going. After that, I decided to go to there were anime conventions. I went to another anime convention. There were threats and other kinds of craziness going around. But in the second convention I went to, my kids, they'd been present, you know, and you know, and of course, if you're telling kids, you know, we're at a convention, of course they want to come. So there were a lot of people that were around, a lot of really supportive people. And there hadn't been any threats that had come up with that. So, you know, kid mask up, and at one time, only one kid's old enough to go out. And again, it's a convention. It's an anime convention. You know, it's kid-friendly. So I took my child over. Afterwards, some crazy person starts posting threats, and there are people out there that were like, how dare that umbrella guy take his kid to an anime convention because he knows what could happen. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? You know, it's not the person that's making threats' fault. For myself, I'm not supposed to take my kid to a convention because what? Again, it's the same thing in a lot of ways because, you know, there's a thing out here that's been set up for people to go out and have fun. This guy, I mean, you know, the Hales, the community, they've all supported this idea. And to go out and to blame not just the family, but a child, it's a victim, and fuck all those people, man. Don't listen to that noise. That makes me mad. I've seen that pointed my way. That's ridiculous, you know? Because again, children should be able to go out and have fun, you know? I mean, and if there's an obstacle to that, if there's a known obstacle to that, then that should be dealt with. But it should be dealt with by law enforcement. It should have never been there in the first place. That's ridiculous, man.
He ran straight to the courthouse with none other than Judge Craig DeThomasis. We're going to get a peek into those hearings. Keep in mind, I'm not there. I'm not there because I'm at home in Ohio. And she's done this not once, not twice, multiple times. Let's see what insanity comes out of her mouth this time and what Judge Craig DeThomasis has to say about it.
Next up, I've got 38-2023 DR 416 Lienette Preston and Jeremy Hales. Good afternoon. If you could just state your full name.
That is the loudest gate I've ever heard in my life, by the way. You know, other stuff doesn't pick up, but that it's like. Oh my God.
Ms. Preston, we are here on your case. It's a order scheduling hearing. As you may have heard, I appreciate your patience as we've worked our way through the docket. We do not have proof of service.
And this is the man that says he can get any document anywhere on the planet in court, this judge. And yet he can't get proof of service to me.
Exactly.
In Ohio, of all places?
I remember when I reviewed this petition, there is the possibility that the respondent may be even in another state.
He's in Ohio right now. He won't be back till the second Tuesday of October, and I told them that at the sheriff's department, or at the courthouse, clerk of court.
I know I'm not the only one that finds it odd that Lienette tells the judge she doesn't watch anything from what.
Yeah, but she knows. She knows where this guy is. I mean, it is creepy, isn't it? I don't keep up with him at all. I'm not the one following him around and trying to cause problems, and yet she knows exactly where he is, knows his schedule. I mean, that's creepy, right?
What the Hales, but she now knows my complete and total travel schedule. I want to say, oh, wait. Wrong shirt.
Okay. And so
I provided them with his address there.
So here's the other thing. First off, I guess the question for you, there's not an injunction that's in place.
No.
And so it would be a hearing to establish, if you wish to go forward on it, to seek a final judgment of injunction. And I think it's like 50 or more pages. I read it all, but what you reference in there are video clips that you feel are relevant evidence. If we come back to court for hearing, you're going to have to make arrangements to play those some way or present those. And you can contact the court administrator's office and there's ways, I mean, we can pull it up on screen, we can pull it up on different screens, but ultimately, you can't just hand them to me to look at. It's got to be presented.
No.
Each witness or the other party gets a chance to see what it is you're presenting, if it's relevant, and to argue against it, whatever. So be aware.
Is transcripts good enough?
I'm sorry?
Transcripts?
Lizzie Bailey, another fool. Remember, birds of a feather flock together. Tried to transcribe all these videos because AI on YouTube, Google transcribes it. And here's the thing. You can't get transcripts of something that's with AI because it gets it wrong. We've seen Lienette's own text message.
Well, and on top of that, too, I mean, you've read this, you've read the subtitles that are applied. I'm going to say the best service, interestingly enough, if you want to read something and have it even remotely accurate, Dropbox, for some reason, is able to apply better subtitles. They get a lot more right. But even in that, there's still at least 5% that is misinterpreted. Now, why is that important? Because there could be items that are involved in any of these videos. And if they take this and they read it, you know, they want to go through it, they want to look at the quote-unquote transcript. If they're getting it wrong, I mean, what's it going to imply that's happening? Who knows? It might imply something terrible that's going on. Also, you know, if they're going to look at quote-unquote transcripts, if she's just going in, she's not a lawyer. They know exactly, like, how you have to go through, how you have to look at certain items and present them, and then you can highlight specific references or notations. But she's just coming in here with a bunch of trash and being like, hey, can I present this? That's nuts.
Messages where it says rust the sauce. Rust, you know, oxidation on metal, and sauce, you know, goes
Rust
on
the
pizza.
sauce, yep.
And she meant to say rust the sauce. These transcripts, number one, are not correct. So number two, they can't be entered in unless they're legally transcribed anyway.
Yep.
This is a foolish attempt and a waste of time and resources.
To be honest, though, the way some of the stuff is played out in the courtroom, I actually would not be surprised if they allowed that. By the way, if you enjoy content, let me say this, I get told I don't shill enough for the channel. Subscribe to the channel. Like a video, share, tell everybody it's out there. And, of course, if you'd like to support the channel, yeah, support it, you know. Here, most of this stuff ends up with the old ye yellow sign, which means they love to demonetize what we talk about, but it's still important. You know, if you chase the monetization thing, you never cover anything important. So,
Sources, mostly by Lizzie Bailey.
Transcripts would not be sufficient unless the other side, I mean, there are times when the parties agree that a transcript is an accurate presentation of everything that was stated.
He has a YouTube channel.
No, I know.
And he's doing this monetarily, not only to me, but to others. And
that's interesting, by the way. Did you hear that statement? So Jeremy Hale is just coming before this in the matter of, right? Oh, we're talking about that. He has YouTube. Oh, I know. Yeah, I know. Really? Like, what all do you know? What all does the grudge judge know? Has he gone in and formulated opinion based on his knowledge of Jeremy Hale having a YouTube channel? Does he not like that thing being out there? Does he not like the fact that it's pointing out certain items about certain people in positions of prominence? Is that why we're seeing things play out the way they are? That's just it's fascinating to know. Oh, yeah. Oh, I know. It's not yeah, I'm aware, you know, this guy, we've seen some background, whatever. It's like, oh yeah, I know. I indeed know. I know it. Oh, okay. I don't know. That just struck me as really, it again, maybe I'm reading into tone. Maybe I'm reading into the way that came across, but anyway.
it's getting to the fact that he is now in my adoption of my daughter. He's trying to overturn my adoption of my baby.
Right, so here's the thing. If he has standing, I don't know that he does.
He doesn't, but
Okay,
he's causing that much
Then you can
drama.
have faith that a judge will say, you don't have standing, case dismissed. And I know, I'm not minimizing that that's causing you a lot of grief, but have faith, the system will address that.
Have faith the system will address. What the fuck? Is he her lawyer? Is he her therapist? I mean, what are you doing, man? What exactly are you doing here? You know, like when you see, she made random allegations. No substantiation to these whatsoever. And the judge is treating that, well, have faith that the system, it's going to throw those things out. Huh, that's kind of bizarre, you know? I don't know, again, maybe I'm reading a little too much into that, but yeah, seeing all the actions that came afterwards, Isn't it fascinating, though? And it's just like, we covered Clayton Eckerd trial, and with the Clayton Eckerd trial, you know, one of the things in the protective order in that, a judge said, and I talked about how terrible this was. He told an accuser that ended up being an absolute monster. A judge agreed, absolute monster, should be referred for prosecution, but in a protective order, said monster was told, I'll take your word for it. It's strange how often people take the word of some of these folks. You know, and when you get a legitimate victim in there, it's oftentimes, not going to grant that, not going to do anything. It's just crazy.
This system, in this limited issue of whether there's an injunction put in place, is going to turn on whether there's competent substantial evidence under the stalking statute, and what you're alleging really overlaps with cyber stalking. There's very specific statute on it, and there was a change in the law, and it's, by my count, there's been one case, really relevant case, since that change that describes the situation you're talking about.
You all want to say it, it's the Bud Love case. Not Butt Love. That would be Crook right now in jail, dropping his soap on purpose.
Oh, no.
This is the Bud Love case. Now, there's major differences between my case and the Bud Love case. In the Bud Love case, there is direct, very, very blatant breaking of constitutional protected speech. There is aspects of inciting different things, such as go take that child from them, or literally telling fans and followers, go take this child, go do this and harm this person.
Right.
Whereas, and what the Hales, all we've shared is truth. And from the very beginning, even though this had been going on for well over a year before we showed or talked about any of it, we had always stated, do not contact anyone.
Right.
These two cases are nothing alike. One case was unprotected speech. My case is complete and total protected speech.
But ultimately, we got to have a hearing, and I got to hear from both sides as to the purpose of the contact, the legitimacy, whether it's directed at you, all the different various issues that are involved. And so it's kind of close. If you're saying that you have reason to believe he'll be here on a certain day, 2 weeks, or would you say the second?
Tuesday of October.
The second Tuesday of October is October 10. We have court on October 11. I don't know that you could give law enforcement the info about specifically on that date where he'll be.
But she's not a stalker, right?
They can serve him at the town hall meeting on the 10th. He'll be there.
I mean, it's crazy too. I mean, you have a judge that is basically telling them how to further going after us. Oh, it's just nuts. It's absolutely nuts, man. Angel, thanks to 10 there. You would think with all Levy County corruption, they would want to put an end to, an LP, keep their ineptitude and corruption from being, skated. I mean, you would think at a certain point, But at the same time, you've heard the old adage, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, right? The one thing that they really seem, this is just my opinion on it, is they don't like the magnifier. They don't like the fact that the one person that's been showcasing that corruption, and showcasing it, you're not talking about to, the population of Levy County. You're talking about to hundreds of thousands of people. They want to put an end to that. A lot of people seem like very useful tools in that, don't they?
Filming it.
Okay, so there's a specific place. It's the Otter Creek
Town Hall.
That's really stalkery for sure.
Do you serve on that board?
I ran once and I'll be running again.
The judge is actually asking her this question because if she's on the town council or has ran for the town council, she's a public figure, and therefore she's opened up to more scrutiny in her life. And it's very, very hard to say, oh, wait, I'm going to get an injunction because I don't like what he's posting about me. She just proves the point. There is no relevancy for an injunction whatsoever. Now, what isn't okay, if you're a public figure, is saying that somebody rapped your daughter.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So, I mean, this is actually a very good point there. Even limited purpose public figures, like YouTubers, for example, it adds a higher degree to that. When people are like, hey, you should sue over X, Y, and Z. First of all, it takes a lot of money to sue. Second of all, you're not guaranteed for anything, and you're opened up for a lot of scrutiny. That's even for limited purpose. If you are running for public office, you're out in the public eye. People are allowed to investigate who you are. They're allowed to look into it. They're allowed to comment on that. I mean, you see what's said about public figures running for office. Like, look at many of the people. I mean, again, you could do that any day. Just go on Twitter and look up anybody that's running for freaking office. The opposition there, look at what they say about that. And again, all of that stuff is protected. Well, I mean, again, there are, like Jeremy Hale said, if somebody's going in and saying that you've done some horrible thing to children or something, again, that's beyond the pale. But it takes things. You have a burden of proof. And you're going to have to prove some malice, I'm going to pull that up, actually. Give me a second.
Kind of the purpose of this.
So you'll be there, but he'll be there?
She's caught in a pickle now. She's too ignorant, too foolish to actually understand that the judge is trying to say, if you want an injunction and he's going to be there, why in the world would you put yourself there? Therefore, nullifying any need for an injunction.
I try not to go when he's there.
This is such a huge lie. She prides herself on being so brave and courageous for being there when I'm there. As a matter of fact, Marla Hughes.
Okay, so adding to what we were just talking about, there's the idea of actual malice. For allegedly defamatory statements, you have to look that, with that, do the facts that they state or imply, were they false? Did they alert others? Is there harm? That's the typical thing for defamation. When you add in actual malice, though, you have to show reckless disregard. So that's this other level to it. The reckless disregard is to essentially say that these facts or these statements, they didn't care about the truth of it. So either they were lies, just flat out lied, or they didn't care. They didn't care if it was a lie. They're out there. And, again, it's reckless disregard of the truth. Now, you've seen the truth of what's going on. Was there reckless disregard for the truth? Oh, well, I don't know. Maybe we should I'd do an interview and ask John Crook. But, yeah, he seems to be having some problems right now, all right?
Huge praises her. Oh, you're going straight into the battle, into the war.
That was a funny
that
pause.
Okay. Okay. I'm just saying, because what you don't have, and one of my concerns you may have heard discussed with other people, I don't mind continuing things if there's good cause to continue it, but for those of you that don't have an extension of a temporary injunction, you got to be aware that there's not a court order that's in effect that puts that protection in place. And so
I've had CPS at my house 8 times now that he's called. 8 times.
So if it's a false report, filing a false report to the Department of Children and Families is a crime.
Working on that too.
That's up to the law enforcement agencies and that agency to report it as a crime. I don't have jurisdiction to hear that. This is a civil matter. But it's something that could be relevant and material for the court's consideration. We'll hear about it. So I'm a little cautious about thinking that they could serve him on that day at that place.
He just noted something again there. Well, I don't really have jurisdiction to say that he's doing this, that there's a crime there. They have to say that, but we could consider that. We could consider, it's... That's wild. I think DHS should be taken to task, because how could they consider that environment safe before? But now, what you're seeing, again, John Cook freaking pulling a pow out on a kid. Lienette's statements about safety or a lack thereof, I think those are, yeah.
And we come back on the 11th, but we could try.
Judge Grudge is cautious about me being served. This is the judge that allowed me in front of his face, in his courtroom, to be served illegally in the state of Florida.
I'm here all the time. So October 11 at 1 p.m. Adam Clark will continue 38-2023 DR 416 for purposes of hearing. 1 p.m. I don't know if we could make some sort of a notation that there's reason to believe it'll be at Otter Creek Town Hall meeting. What time is that on October 10th?
7 p.m.
7 p.m. Yeah, put them on the description. It might help save them.
And I gave them they have his address in Otter Creek as well.
Okay. Schedule for the 11th. All right, Ms. Preston, if you want to just wait, we'll get you a copy of the notes. Appreciate it.
Otter Creek Town Hall meeting happens, except Lienette's not in charge of my life or my itinerary, no matter how bad she wants to continue to stalk me and think that she can be in charge of it. So I wasn't at Town Hall meeting. And unfortunately, I wasn't there. Really, honestly, wouldn't have mattered anyway. They would have served me. There would not have been enough time to actually go and defend and get a lawyer in court. Right. None of this hearing would not have happened anyway. Except it did happen. And so that's what's next.
Next one is 38-2023 DR 416. This is Lienette Preston and Jeremy Hales. We have Ms. Preston. Good afternoon. If you can just announce your presence by stating your full name.
Lienette Michelle Lacey Alexis Preston.
Good God, it's a lot of names.
Preston, this is a...
Look at that. Look at all that name. My Lord.
Matter that... For the record, 9/7/23, a petition was filed for protection against stalking. We came to court on September 13th, extended the order setting hearing through October 11. And as of today, we still have the same issue, which is no service me just check here.
He's having a fall festival on October 21st here in Otter Creek. Otherwise, we need to try and serve him in Ohio.
Otherwise what?
We need to try and serve him in Ohio. He, out of retaliation, went to an Ohio court, and I had to go to court with him yesterday. He perjured himself and alleged that I was doing all this to him instead of him doing it to me. I need an ex parte order.
She's not a stalker, though, right? Except,
I mean, it's crazy. She's like, hey, by the way, you know, she's talking about, I've actually been brought forward on this, but it's all retaliation. And yeah, I mean, she knows his itinerary. She knows everything that he's planning there. It is very creepy when you look at this all in retrospect.
she literally just tells the judge, he's doing this at this time, at this place, the fall festival, which I was not there for, unfortunately, because we didn't have our finalized orders from Ohio yet. But what we do have is text messages that Lienette sent residents of Otter Creek asking them to purchase items that they saw on the video. So she doesn't watch any videos, yet we have all the proof through her text messages, because the woman literally does not know how to shut her mouth, proving that she watches everything and she stalks every word I literally say. And then she tries to actually look like George.
Did you appear in court yesterday?
Via Zoom, yes.
Okay. And
they're not making a determination because my ex-husband, his hearing is now the 13th.
Here or where?
In Ohio, via Zoom.
So,
Jesus, I'm reading up on some of this Trump thing while we're going. I don't mean to cut that off, but listen to this. This is madness. Listen. So live updates. This was updated 5 minutes ago. This is for the New York Times. Quote, Trump safe after shooting at rally. Suspect gunman killed. A spectator was also dead after a man fired at the former president during a rally in Pennsylvania, according to people briefed in the matter. Wow, that's freaking insanity. You know, again, this will be there are like 20 people freaking live streaming on that, but that's nuts. Like, listen to this. Biden's supposed to make he spoke shortly after the incident, and here's the latest. This is what it says. Listen to this. Former President Donald J. Trump was rushed to the hospital on Saturday after a shooting just minutes into his rally. That left one rally attendee and the suspect gunman dead, according to a U.S. official, and 2 people also briefed on the matter. Officials said that the incident was being investigated as an assassination attempt. A rallygoer was killed in the shooting, while the suspect gunman was killed by the Secret Service, according to 3 people briefed on the matter. Mr. Trump was rushed off the stage, bleeding from around his ear. President Biden addressed the nation shortly after the incident, condemning violence is sick. Trump is fine, according to a spokesman from his campaign, while a Secret Service spokesman said that he's safe. I mean, that's nuts, man. I don't, like I said, I don't mean to cut into that, but just reading through it, because, you know, I was waiting on updates on exactly how this stuff, I don't know. I mean, again, when the media covered it at first, if you look at it, if you go back to the beginning, they made it sound like someone threw an egg at him or something. Oh, we heard there were some sounds and a projectile was launched at him. You know, but there was video, so clicked into the video, and you could definitely tell it wasn't like an egg or something that was thrown. You could hear it distinct, pop, pop, pop. And I mean, Trump, phew, that was close, very close. But I mean, it's horrible. Like the division. We have an environment that is so poisoned now that there are people that will applaud this. That's the most frightening thing. There are people that will applaud this, and it just, Anyway, I'm going to continue this. I was reading the updates because I was curious about what happened, you know, if they had mentioned everything about the gunman and what had happened there and anything else. And it reminds me, I read a lot of items on like the 1980s and the incidents that happened in Colombia. You know, and we look at that and we look at it like it's some far-flung reality, you know, the violence that was there, you know, the assassinations and all of that. And it's like, man, you know, we're sitting on a powder keg. And it's not that people are going to be killed in some far-flung future. That just happened. And again, you know, people will talk about, you know, there'll be excuses made. Be like, oh, mental illness. Of course, you have to be mentally ill to do something like that. But what leads to it? It's division. And you know, what's sad about that is we have already seen incidents of violence. We have seen people harmed, killed over what? Just it disgusts me. I mean, it's gotten brazen enough that, again, somebody tried to, you know, you see this. This is what's scary with any of these cases we cover, too. You know, the descriptors that are used for people. You know, like when Megan Fox and I were talking about the Clayton Ackard stuff, you know, the descriptors that are utilized, they kept calling, like, Megan Fox, like, some far-right extremist and all of that. That kind of stuff is used to dehumanize. And when you dehumanize, you make people targets. And we've gotten to the point where, you know, we have to be very careful. You know, all the istophobes, you know, you're a racist, all that stuff. It's not meant to insult. It's not calling a person fat or stupid. It's meant to other, because when you make somebody less than human, then anything can happen to them. And it's a scary world, because it doesn't just happen to political figures out there. It just happens to random folks. And it opens them up to all types of horror. Anyway, I'm going to keep playing this. I just read that. I was like, good God, that's crazy. And I feel like we're talking to the wind sometimes, you know, because there's people out there that, again, they'll use it as a rallying cry for us, but they don't look at what happened. It doesn't de-escalate. It escalates. The rhetoric escalates. And I mean, again, it's like sitting on a powder keg. You can't ignore it. It's there, and it's very real.
All right, let me just make sure I got the players straight here. Mr. Hales, the respondent in this case, is a petitioner in an Ohio case where you're the respondent?
After mine, yes.
And your former husband as well?
Yes.
Okay.
For retaliation for doing this. And he's still posting about us, still doing the stuff that he's doing.
This was Craig DeThomas's out right here. Any competent judge would have been like, something's not lining up here. You're in court in Ohio. And ultimately, I'm sure he's going to look back on this moment. We already know he watches. We have confirmation of that, which he legally should not be watching. And yet, at the same time, he's probably regretting ever allowing any of this to come before his court, because ultimately, I truly believe this is going to cost him his job. The voters are going to speak against his biased, illegal corruption.
So did your...
That can, very much so. The only way that you deal with corruption, the only way that you deal with these kind of issues is that voters have to speak. They have to speak up. They have to do something about it. That's how they do it. You vote someone out of office. Ultimately, you make enough noise that if somebody wasn't elected, if they're an appointed nominee to something, you can make enough noise to get them removed. It's amazing how much noise needs to be made. There's a correct way to go about things. The correct way is to expose the insanity. And I mean, that's what citizen journalists do. Right?
Was your case heard and the court take it under advisement, or was the court saying that you're going to return on another date?
It was heard,
Okay.
And she's going to make a determination on it later, but I wasn't really, I don't know how to defend myself. I wasn't really allowed. I sent her 2 packets of stuff, of evidence, and she didn't accept any of it. She said she didn't get one of them, but.
So
I mean,
this is what really gets me. The ridiculousness of, I couldn't defend myself. She had every opportunity to defend herself. She's the one that put herself in this situation. Now she wants to claim that she's a victim. She's not a victim except of herself. She's receiving the consequences of her actions. She should have never done what she did and stalked us here. She should have never posted what she posted. She should have never put signs up all around town. These 2, Crook already in jail, Lienette probably not far behind, are only receiving their due diligence of what they've done to others their entire life. And now you want to play games and fake cry?
I can't address that case for which I have no jurisdiction, and you know.
It was retaliatory against us.
You have, I would presume, pretty for sure, appellate remedies in case, but there's not a ruling, there's not a final order in that case, is what you're saying.
She's going to make it, yes.
With regards to your former husband, his other case is like based on similar facts or allegations?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So with regards to your case here, it's just a matter of service, and we went through that discussion.
Yes.
He's got to be served if he chooses.
I like how they brought up John Cook, by the way, because John Cook, well, it's just again, we're seeing the reality of who John Cook is playing out real time. And they had so many opportunities to prevent this.
Not to appear, it'll be a default, but there's, and I'm sure it's all the Otter Creek 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at least 6 attempts to serve.
Yeah, he was supposed to be here, and he avoided. He did not come.
For those who have been following the story for quite some time, we were waiting for our civil protection orders from the Ohio courts, which we received. Then we immediately went to Florida, to the sheriff's station, where we were stalked. The very moment we went into Levy County, stalked by Lienette and Crook, both of which were found guilty for violation of the civil protection orders in Ohio, which they now, 1 week from this filming date, have to be present yet again. I'm sure Crook will be present via Zoom from his jail cell.
That's going to look bad, by the way. I mean, think about that. So John Crook has to be present. How's he going to be present? Well, he's going to have to be present with the technology that the state provides. That's wild, isn't it? You talk about, again, it alarms me that you've had so many opportunities to, again, curb this behavior. And it's been like yelling to the wind. Now you finally get some kind of just deserved, but look how long it took.
And so what is the October 21 date you're mentioning?
He's having a fall festival at his school thing. He's announcing it, and in the announcements, he's torturing my tortoise rescue. He's putting cans of soup with a turtle on it. He's calling me Lienette. They're selling t-shirts.
Oh no, I called her Lienette. I actually protected her identity online. Yet she went out and broadcasted all of her names and all of her garbage everywhere. So calling her Lienette actually protected our identity. Oh no, turtle soup! As she's continued to cook those turtles in the Florida heat. And
there aren't any fucking turtles, man. Let's be real about this. It ain't about there's no proof that there's any. I mean, they're all gone. There's no proof that there's a live turtle anymore. Like, where'd they all go? Oh, they were given to a friend. What? Like, you should have some kind of regulatory body that's going in and being like, yeah, do you have any proof that you didn't bury those in your backyard? That you're actually running a rescue here? Not a turtle roach motel where nothing ever checks out?
and they continue to pass away. T-shirts! Oh no, how dare I make t-shirts? Oh, well, I have purposefully not made a cent off of anything of this ridiculousness.
You talk about the transcripts, by the way. You can see, like, you know, even words that he catches up on. Well, he's not made a cent, as in a smell off of it.
That has happened in my life in Otter Creek with stalkers, Lienette and Crook. I could have made a mint off of t-shirts, and I've yet to sell anything.
And
So it's October 21st.
in your community, in Levy County and Otter Creek.
Yes.
So we can go through this again here. Basically, that's 10 days away. I could schedule a court date subsequent to that. And we can make notice, like where would be the location of this? You're saying it's at his home or his
No,
property?
the Ark Schoolhouse.
What's the name of the schoolhouse?
Russell, do you know the address?
It's on Highway 24, about the middle of town. I don't know the actual number.
It's on Highway 24.
This is beautiful. Now, Rust the Sauce there is already in a huge amount of trouble with the Ethics Committee, Tallahassee. But not only that, he's being deposed for federal court. And then based on his deposition, legal action is going to be taken against him as well. Because he's been there in the court. He has illegally been texting Lienette in the court. And this just gets better and better. This is the first time I saw it. I saw it as you just saw it. This is incredible.
And the name of the schoolhouse?
That's
It
nuts.
used to be the Ark.
Ark?
Yes. He bought it.
Well, you look at all these people, again, it goes back to the enemy of my enemy is. That's the way this has been treated. Again, and look what kind of person they've unleashed, or people that they've unleashed on their community.
I brought Mr. Meeks because it's also happening to him.
And that your expectation is that he should be present at that time?
Yes, he's running it.
Let me see what address we have. The address that we have for Otter Creek is also a residence of his here?
Yes.
From time to time? Okay.
And I provided the one in Ohio too, in case they have to try and serve him there.
So.
And all that
our
information
next
about where he lives and everything.
date subsequent to the October 21 date would be October 26. So almost every time we always meet on Wednesday, but that's a Thursday that week. So it'd be Thursday, October 26 at 1 p.m.
Okay.
If you're requesting, the court would grant a continuance of the order setting hearing to return on October 26 at 1 p.m. And then, Madam Clerk, we have the address of his residence in Otter Creek when he's there, but he hasn't been there. And if we could just make some note that the expectation he may be present on October 21 at the formerly known as Ark Schoolhouse, Highway 24, Otter Creek. Give law enforcement some information to maybe go on.
They know where it is. Yeah.
Okay.
They're aware.
All right, so I'm going to get you here in order in just a moment. I'll see you on October 26th.
Okay.
And so what, I know you want to be ready to resolve let me look right now, actually.
He was offered a resolution through Ohio that we both would agree to not say anything about each other, but because I'm a paycheck to him, he said no.
He has the ability, he has a right, rather, to say that. He absolutely has the right. If he's offered some type of resolution, he has the right to decline said resolution. For whatever reason, he doesn't have to say why. He has said why, but he doesn't have to. You are allowed to be like, hell to the no. I'm not going to do that. Because essentially, he would be forced to gag himself. And these people, they have not cooperated with any of this whatsoever. So, as the law-abiding party in that, I mean, essentially, you've seen what these, it's just crazy. It's freaking crazy. But he's allowed to do that. It's wild to try to bring this stuff up and try to weaponize it. And again, that's his prerogative.
I would have been absolutely for that. I don't want contact with him at all.
Except she still continues to do it to this day, even though there's a civil protection order, even though she's been found guilty of violating it. She still has not stopped.
So you're saying there was a discussion about a settlement offer type thing?
Yes,
Okay.
the judge offered it and
So-
he said no.
That's his prerogative. He'll,
Yes.
he'll be here in court, hopefully, after service, and we can have that discussion. It may be, depending on, because I know you've got, what you're representing is, evidence. It may be that we are going to discuss, when he avails himself of the court process, what kind of time frame to get it scheduled for a trial date, rather than on a docket like this, and we might just set a time certain, a date certain to do that.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes.
But I'll see you on the 26th. I'll sign an order here in just a moment.
Okay, thank
Okay,
you, sir.
thank you.
Isn't it ironic that she's crying to Judge DeThomasis, saying that there was a resolution placed before him, and I would have taken it. I would have stopped it all, which she still hasn't stopped. But then she says Mark Feather tried to bribe her and pay her off to make all this go away in Florida. And then the judge slaps a temporary injunction on me, not based on what I've done, based on what she alleged somebody else did. If that's not insanity, I don't know what is. I can't be any more clear. She deserves the exact same consequences of what she's alleged that I have done to her daughter. I will not stop until justice is served and she stops destroying innocent people's lives.
I thought that was fascinating to see the look behind everything. Man. God, this Donald Trump thing. I'm going to play that footage again. Check this crazy out. Look at this. Look at this madness here. Look at this. I mean, this is a big topic. You can see, okay, so this is like one place, by the way. Of course, this is going to be a huge topic. But to tell you, again, how this will galvanize support and everything. You look at this, like this post right here. 5:25, so we're talking about a few hours. I mean, this post, just one alone, has picked up 25 million hits on it. Look at this, though. It's crazy. Listen to it.
Well, then, if you want to really see something that said, take a look at what happened.
So, I mean, when you hear that, the Secret Service comes flying in. Like, look at, I mean, again, like, I can't believe how the media covered that at first. There was some sound, Made it sound like it is. Again, it made it sound like I thought when I first heard it, I actually thought that a protester had shown up and thrown an egg at him because there's some type of projectile. But you can hear that. You can see it. I mean, he got very lucky in that, too. Look at that Secret Service just rush in, too. They dive on top of him. They react really quickly, But, because, I mean, tack, tack, tack. You see that? Down. Secret Service swarming. Trying to shield there. And people, like if you look at people in the background, they don't know what the heck's going on. I mean, people start to react when you watch the people in the background, too. They're like, oh my God, this is happening live. Like, watch the people behind him. Like, this is so frightening.
Take a look at what happened.
Listen to all the... You can hear that, too, in the aftermath. Listen to that. You got the Secret Service swarming. Oh, man, it's craziness. What's really telling about this? YouTube and other platforms will try to suppress this stuff, too. If it's too big, you can't. You can't shut this down. So it will definitely get coverage. It is getting coverage now, but there's no way to shut it up, Now, what they'll do with this, you mark my words, they'll do this because they do it with everything else. They will, within a day or so, maybe tomorrow, I figure they can't do this tonight, but maybe tomorrow they will add in. They'll add in their piece of the algorithm that puts this with trusted sources. So they will only allow media spin to it. So you have all the media talking heads, the same people that inflame situations like this. They'll be out, they're talking about it, running their mouth, saying that they'll condemn it, but they'll give their justifications. In fact, I was looking through. So if you really want a feeling for why this stuff happens, you can see it right here in the headlines. I mean, this is how this comes up. So here's the headlines on what's going on right now. That I was looking this up while everything was going on. And check it out here. I mean, you see the headlines, right? Okay, well, you have the older articles that are popping up on this too. You know, you can see it right here. And these are the kind of headlines that are, again, pointed at a presidential candidate. We've gotten to the point where if you look, so I was looking at footage of Biden, years ago. And one of the most telling things about that footage wasn't Biden's faculties. It was actually the way, when people went after each other. They still went after each other, but there was some decorum. And I'm not talking about insult. Again, these people, I want to see them out there and insulted. In fact, you can not like a Trump in office, but the reason that man made it in office is because people were fucking sick of politicians. They were sick of them. And they tried to bring in the only outsider. See, when you say something like this, people are like, Trump's not a real outsider. He is an outsider. He's a political outsider. But the only people that can run and actually get in office are people that can make insane amounts of money for backing. But he was somebody outside of that political norm. He wasn't one of them. That's what put the man in office, because people were tired of status quo politics. So you could dislike a person being in office, but ultimately that was a response because people were so sick of it. Like the most telling thing, like when you look at politics, like people don't look across political lines anymore, and they don't look at the reality of how people actually feel about elected officials. Because if you really did, what you would find out is that when they do satisfaction surveys, when they talk about whether or not you feel represented, what you find is that House and Congress, what do people think about that? They think low, almost singular digits. So they go into the low teens, maybe lower, to almost singular, we're talking about like 9% on some things. And that's across the board. So everybody fights and slap fights over this dumb shit, but ultimately nobody feels like they're actually represented. Like politics is the most amazing thing I've ever seen, because it's a job where people do nothing, and at the end you have the people that think these folks represent them that are cheering it on and be like, yeah, I got to get that person back in office. Fuck no, you don't. You need some kind of change. And we all agreed on that. I mean, I've seen some nasty campaigning, but I've never seen 4 years like we saw when Trump was in office. I've never seen it. I've seen a lot of them. I've seen the media go after people. Not like I went like W. When you saw Bush Jr. Man, went after him, but they didn't go after him with the rhetoric that they used. They spent a lot of time. And again, you see headlines like this. This headline right here is why you end up with people that feel like they can do something like this. He shows outright hostility to indifference around black. Oh man, he hates those people. Oh, extreme. I mean, yeah. It's just, it's insanity. And it gets people killed. And it has before this, but nobody cared. Ultimately, it became a side-to-side issue. If something happened and it impacted the other side of that, somehow that was okay. Because again, we've gotten to the point where people are othered. They don't really matter. They do, but they're headlines. They're not human beings anymore. It's frightening. Like, I wouldn't want to go to the violence that we've seen at political rallies. Like that political rally there, we've seen footage of people trying to go to political rallies, to just go listen to a guy speak and make an informed decision. And they have every right to be there, but you've seen the violence that's around that, and it's escalated. We watch years of that stuff. And anybody that denies that, man, you're lying to yourself. You don't have to lie. I don't like any of them. I don't want to fucking feel represented by any of them. But you know that they've created this pressure cooker where this isn't the first person to have something happen. But it's insane because it was aimed. What's up, Stick Print Paint? Thanks for the 10 there. The UK government is just elected with a huge majority. It got from 20% of the voting population. 40% couldn't be bothered with the same old crap and didn't vote. Yeah, the apathy comes over. And I understand because I suffer from apathy too. I hate these fucking people and I don't feel like you can change anything. I mean, if I'm just going to be honest. Like when I say I can't stand any of them, that's a rigged system. Maybe on a local level you could do something. Maybe even on a state level. But when you get to this federal, level, you can't do anything about it. That's why, again, this guy gets in and ultimately, all these people knew what they were doing. They absolutely have known what they were doing. Give me a second, I'll light my cigar. The craziest thing is that the actual news from this stuff, the updates, it comes from citizen journalists. Like you can't trust the media on what's happening or updates. You can't trust them to have up-to-date information. See, journalism has gotten so ridiculous in this stuff that they mine from Twitter. There are pictures out there, again, I don't feel comfortable showing on a live stream, but there are pictures of the bleachers. They're, blood in the bleachers. They're empty. There's discarded items, like there's a phone sitting around and cans. But here, you want me to show you, like I said, if you want an image that'll last from this, an image that puts people in office. Give me 1 minute here. It'll be that. Again, you may hate what I'm saying on that, but it's fucking true. Well, It's crazy. Like if you look at it, I remember like Ronald Reagan, for example. Like if you go back and you look at, if you look at what people praised out of Ronald Reagan, there's a speech. There's a balloon that pops, and in the middle of that, he's like, "Oh, you missed," and it just keeps going. People are like, "Yeah, that's stones. That's tenacity. That's the kind of stuff that puts you in office there." And I think it allows a discussion where people, I think a lot of people are afraid. I think people are, they're afraid to say what they think. They're afraid of the ramifications because people will take it out on your real life. They'll try to destroy your fucking life and harm you. I mean, some of the footage, and again, I realize that there's biased footage. I get that. But man, some of the stuff that's coming out of places like Portland, that place is a nightmare. If you want to really look at what's been created in many of our cities, you know, that's a place where they decided, hey, we're going to legalize all kinds of substances. And what do you have? You have human. I mean, if you want to see something that would look like the Walking Dead, that place, that's what it looks like. Chicago. You look at the crime statistics coming out of Chicago, it's terrifying. I mean, again, you're not supposed to talk about that. You're supposed to pretend it doesn't exist, you know. But the statistics that come out of there, I mean, you're talking about not just daily. Like when you get into people's lives being ended, that's it's more than that. That's lives lost. When you get into shootings and everything, oh my God, man. I mean, there's a site that does, for Chicago, they do a breakdown of not only the shootings that occur there, what type, you know, like what happened to a person. They have like a little, a detailed breakdown of it, and it's terrifying. I've seen, even the urban, in Tennessee, we're talking about fucking Tennessee here. Okay, I live in the fucking podunk South, okay? Well, if you go to certain major cities, nothing happens anymore. Where there's crime, nothing happens. Even in states where, you know, you have people that pound on, they pound on deaths. When we saw that Covenant school shooting, right? It was terrifying because, like for myself, we knew people that were involved in it. My mom and my stepfather are, you know, they have a church, and the people that were involved, again, you're talking about people's kids that you know, and nothing happened. It became a political talking point. And people lost their lives. Nothing happened. You know, ultimately it became like this bickering back and forth about things that were just not relevant. And it was like it faded to obscurity and nobody cared anymore. But I mean, there's cities like, man, I wouldn't go to, when I was a kid, we used to go down to the Parthenon. We would go and visit different places like with Nashville. You know, we go out, we visit the pyramid. I saw the King Tut exhibit that came through like years ago, you know, when it went to Memphis. I wouldn't go near Memphis anymore. Memphis is a terrible place. It's because of the ineptitude of politicians. They've turned these places into war zones. They've allowed that to happen. Nashville, you know, we have, I'm sure most people have heard of like Opryland that used to be there. You know, Opryland was a big theme park. It was one of the big attractions. Music City, you know, come and see, tourism, blah, blah, blah. Well, they had Opryland, they turned it into a mall. You know, afterwards, the mall thrived. Well, the craziest thing is, in this day and age, you have a tourist mall that thrives. Now, I wouldn't want to go near there. They instituted policies in that place right now that will not allow anyone under 18 to go unaccompanied. They have rules about youth, about specific hours that certain people are allowed to be. I mean, it's just craziness because people get robbed there. Even the affluent areas. So there's an area in Tennessee called Green Hills. Green Hills is a big money area. You know, they have a giant mall. It's got they used to have like an unauthorized Rolex store. You know, again, big money. Even those places, the places where, you know, people, you expect them to be protected, they're not. There are robberies coming out of there. Crime rates. And I I've lived here. Like, I know this place. I've moved away a few times and come back, but I always have had family here. There are safer areas like outside of larger cities, but these cities, the administrations that you have there they're not effective. And they don't want outsiders. Ultimately, one of the things that Donald Trump has shown, and again, you can hate, I don't give a fuck what you think about Donald Trump, that's your business. But one of the things that he's shown is that both sides of that political aisle, they will oppose an outsider. They always do. When you have people on both sides of the aisle that rally together and they oppose somebody, do you think that they're doing that because they think that this guy's a bad guy? No, they do that because they feel that he may mess up the status quo. It doesn't matter if he's the biggest dipshit ever. You know why? Because many of them are. Many of them are the biggest wastes of skin that we have ever seen. But they don't ever cross party lines. These are people that would argue over, if you were like, man, you know, the best way to chew bubble gum, it would be X. The other side would be like, no. You don't chew bubble gum that way. You chew bubble gum this way. You know why? Well, it depends on the side of it. You know, you do that because, well, not chewing that way, that's disrespectful, you know, to something. There'd be buzzwords added to it. You know, one side, you know how the buzzwords are. You know exactly what they are. Both sides buzzword, but you get an outsider in. Usually, before they could control outsiders, we've seen people like Ross Perot. Ross Perot had enough background that, you know, enough noise that he could interrupt one of the two parties. Ralph Nader with the Green Party. You know, they blamed him for losing an election. You know, oh no, that's how you got W in. But you never had an outsider that could actually run and get into office. Until suddenly you did. And it has been insane. Again, I see people arguing over whether or not this guy's a criminal, for example. Okay, what people don't ask, the question you should really ask is, how many of your representatives are actually criminal? Now, that's not excusing criminal behavior. It's saying how many of them are ever held accountable? Ever. If you think these people are criminal, I think many of them are criminal. I think there's plenty of proof. How much accountability do you ever see? On a presidential level, how much accountability? You know, we've seen some pretty corrupt people. I run into people that, like the Clintons, for example, right? There are some very interesting sources that have talked about how they accumulated their wealth. There's a guy named Roger Reeves, infamous drug smuggler. But he you know, it's interesting. A person can be a criminal and be a liar in that stage. You know, of course, they were a liar because they're importing, you know, these illegal items. But other than that, I mean, this is a guy that was just blunt about everything in life. Very blunt. And he was gifted with a very good memory. Like, you should listen to him. Look him up, Roger Reeves. One of the things about Roger Reeves is he was a main importer for the Colombian cartels. He worked with Barry Seal. You know, there's the movie American Made. Talked about Barry Seal. It's very, American Made is like 80% fiction, by the way. I don't know why they approached it that way. It actually, Barry Seal's life is so insane that you didn't really need to do that. Could have actually gone through that. But he was a partner, Barry Seal. They imported, I mean, insane amounts of narcotics. One of the ways that they got them in, he talked about this, was bringing them in through Arkansas. Why? Because the people that controlled Arkansas, the Clintons at the time, they were so fucking corrupt that they would pay them off. Made millions off of it, but they provided a safe haven there, you know. In fact, that Barry Seal, so Barry Seal, when he ended up he ended up working with the feds. You know, he gets busted. A lot of the stuff that you see about that guy, if you've ever watched Narcos or anything like that, that guy, it's never reported correctly. His life is insane. But Barry Seal, he ends up working with the feds. He provides information enough to take down a foreign leader. Now, what happens to the guy? Well, he goes into court after cooperation, and the judge decides that they're not going to allow him to go into witness protection or anything. No, he's going to go into community-based. He's going to go into a halfway house. Now, in a halfway house, you know exactly where a person is. You know exactly where they're going to be at night. Guess what happened to him? This guy who knew all this information about these fucking corrupt individuals, he ends up getting gunned down in the streets. Now, that's kind of talked about, but not really. There were no questions about, hey, what its motivation? It just went away. You know, it's fucking crazy. But a lot of that has been because we've had status quo politicians. We get an outsider in. And I freaking hate listening to people hype politicians into tell me about, oh, they've done this or they've done that. Man, I go to the grocery store right now. I saw a video. There's a very fascinating video going around about grocery costs, talking about the Walmart app. You can find it. It's a TikTok video, but it's been making the rounds everywhere. So this guy figured out that there's an order again button in the Walmart app. And he had bought 45 items just a few years ago. And those items cost him $122. So he decides he's going to order them again just to see what the exact same items, provided by Walmart, by the way. We're not talking about provided by a third party. You know, they're not obsolete. We're talking about, you know, things like chip bags and stuff. What do you end up with? You end up with over $400 in cost. It's almost 3 times the cost. I hate seeing people defend status quo politicians. You know, these are the same people that have done nothing for us for decades. And again, you get in an outsider and they led to enough hate. Here's my point. I know it took me a minute to get to this, but this is my entire point. When's the last time you saw somebody make a move on a president? I mean, really, when's the last time you saw that? You knew it would happen sooner or later. But they go after the outsider. That's fascinating, isn't it? I mean, like I for me, okay, you want to know the reality of fucking of where we are now. I mean, for me, I hold 2 jobs. I do YouTube. That's a job. You know, I do a day job too. I keep 2 jobs to make sure that my kids can have a decent life. You know, I'm not complaining about that or anything else, but that's something that it's become more necessary over time. You know, again, when you have, I was complaining about this the other day. So people will tell you, man, if you're going to the grocery store and you can't afford stuff, you're not buying basics. You need to go back to basics. Okay. One of the things that I buy, if I go, I actually like Walmart generic yogurt. They're generic for some reason. It's better than, you know, I've picked up generics from a lot of other places. Okay, so in the past, you could go in and you could get a 4-pack. It was like 80-something cents. I can't remember the number. I'd have to look at it again. But it was like 80 cents. It was like 20 cents a piece. Okay, very cheap way to eat. Recently, that same item there went from 80-something cents to $1.96. Same item. In fact, it got smaller. So the proportion, the portions there, they get smaller. But that item with less it goes up. That's not enough, though. So recently, it climbed yet again. A few months later, it jumps up. Right now, it's at $2.16. So if I go in and I buy 4 of those, 5 4-packs, rather. So I buy the 4-packs, I buy 5 of those when I go to the grocery store. That item alone costs me $6.70 something more. Just for fucking generic yogurts. That's one thing that I'm buying at the grocery store. The people that are like, man, you're not eating basics. Dude, that's basic as you can get. You know, that is right there on the very basics. That's what people like. I don't know if some people are just so removed. They don't understand why common people, they find something in an outsider. It's what I don't understand the level of division where it goes to violence. Like I said, I live in when people are like, oh, you need more basics. I live in one of the poorest areas of the United States. I live in the Appalachians. In the Appalachians, they were extremely poor. Poverty looks different here than urban poverty, though. Rural poverty, you're poor, but you have a lot of land around you. I'm sure you've seen videos on that. You've seen ghost towns. You know, this town, it took it a long time. It's never recovered since NAFTA. There used to be 2 factories that were here. Now, there's a Bridgestone factory here now, but there used to be 2 factories here. And those factories, under NAFTA, they were just ghosted. But tens of thousands of people with nothing. And people, their answers to these folks, they don't have shit. Is you need to buy basics. With fucking what? But then again, I live in a place that people call flyover state. Politicians call this a flyover state. We don't matter. You know, because people, they know how your state's going to vote. And you don't have enough sway to actually influence an election. So nobody gives a shit. They don't even pretend. I'm not saying they give a shit normally, but they don't even pretend now. I wish we could get to the point where, again, you may hate a politician. I see people, every time you bring up, like, I watch the DUI guy say something about Donald Trump, and all the comments were like, oh, you're one of them. Unfollow. It was quite insane to watch. The DUI guy's from Kentucky. You know, again, they're a flyover state. They don't matter. We will have to understand the appeal to that. That outsider, man, somebody tried to take him out today. I'm not saying that was just so bizarre, isn't it? Now, there's a lot of rumor about the shooter. There's a lot of non-confirmed fact. You know, I saw somebody saying that it was like a Chinese spy. Or I mean, we don't know yet. To be honest, you may never know. You know, I tell you, you want to understand about political corruption. We were talking about criminal stuff. So I talked about a case called 1MDB. You should look it up. Number 1, letter M is in Mark, D is in dog, B is in boy. 1MDB. 1MDB was one of the biggest political and social corruption things to happen, and barely got talked about at all. It happened in the last year. You know, when all this stuff we're talking about holding Trump accountable, I was like, well, what about the Obama administration? You know, and again, I'm not getting into whatabouts. I'm just saying, like, nothing happened to that. 1MDB, in Malaysia, you had billions of dollars stolen. They were supposed to be public works. And the people who stole that money, at first they started bringing this money into Hollywood. And this is legit. You know the guy, Proz from the Fugees? Praz from the Fugees is looking at real prison time because he's been convicted. He's in the state of trying to appeal his conviction, but he's going to prison for a long time, it looks like, because of this. Well, you had the people took all this money, they were pumping it into Hollywood. In fact, if you ever watched The Wolf of Wall Street, The Wolf of Wall Street was funded by this money. And there was a point to that, too. But you have people like Kim Kardashian walking away with trash bags full of currency. You have Kanye West, you know, he's doing private yacht parties for millions, you know, 7 people. They want him to throw a private concert. You know, they're walking away with bank, and there's so many people there. When it looks like buying status, it's one thing. But then you get into this discussion. So Leonardo DiCaprio, he's meeting with this guy who funds Wolf of Wall Street. And they're talking about political elections at the time. And the guy with all this money starts talking about how he's donating tens of millions of dollars to the Obama administration. He does. Now, the way that he does this is he does it through a straw man. He's not telling people who he is because, well, foreign status. And on top of that, they have other people that are attached to this, including a real Chinese spy. Now, there's enough money changing hands, plus they bought enough social currency with Hollywood that they, you actually get a set down. You have everybody that's responsible for the Wolf of Wall Street, including this guy. You know, yeah, he's credited in the movie, too. You can look it up again. I can't remember his freaking name right off the top of my head. But they end up with set downs with the Obama administration when they're their chief financiers. A guy who's had quite a few problems after all of this. This guy gets his photograph taken with Obama's father because he ends up at some key functions, but he's not supposed to be there. Now, they also, this actually gets uncovered. But, interestingly, once all of this gets uncovered, there are calls made to federal judges. The calls that are made, there's a Vegas casino magnate. He's good friends, a lot of powerful friends. You know, because of course, you got to have powerful friends to open up all those casinos. You know, get through all that political red tape. Well, there are calls made to federal judges. Suddenly, nobody's being investigated anymore. And this corruption, the scandal keeps going for years. Until finally it gets so big that it blows up. Now, you have the FBI comes in and they talk to Kim Kardashian. You have Leonardo DiCaprio, who's interviewed through it. He also testified in court. But you know what? The media barely covered it. Even with Leonardo DiCaprio in there, it was a 2-day news cycle. It was DiCaprio took the stand. People noticed, this going on. And then talking about it. And then poof, the thing just disappeared. Billions of dollars. Now, that's domestically in the United States. Abroad, there's a lot more coverage of it. Because you like with Malaysia, for example, you had elected officials that they stole this money. Again, billions from aid. It's supposed to go to people. Instead, it goes into buying political influence, including, like I said, one of the people that was involved in this, there weren't just Malaysians, there's a Chinese spy that was involved. And nobody, the only person that ends up paying for this is the middleman that is used as the straw man for this money coming in. Again, they went in and they paid Praz from the Fugees. They paid this guy hundreds of thousands of dollars each time to set up these meetings. And he does. And again, he definitely is criminal in this. But normally with a guy like that, if we were talking about any other thing, if we were talking about, say, you know, a cartel or something, that guy right there would be offered immunity. And everyone on the other side of that, they would be people that would be looking at the prison time. But no, the bag man, the middleman in this, that's the guy that went to prison, or is going to prison. Nothing happened with that. Like I said, so when people are like, yeah, man, holding this guy, taking, it's like, no. They're taking the outsider to task. And again, you can think that guy, he needs to be in prison. I don't give a fuck. I don't even like paying attention to those trials. Like, again, the only reason I knew about 1MDB so well is because there were so many Hollywood names that were popping up in it. And I found it interesting that I had never heard anything about this. You know, I found out more about that case from looking at coverage from foreign YouTubers outside of the United States, where I could piece in certain things, and then, you know, I ended up with the transcripts from the FBI talking to certain people. But I found out more about that because I found fuck all about it when I looked into it into the United States media. They'd write a few things here and there, but they never really got down to the meat and potatoes of it. They never really talked about the people that were truly to blame for it. I don't know. I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, there's people that suffer for all this too. But anyway, I mean, if you wanna watch people like fucking throw a rally and rhetoric behind one side or the other, I mean, there are plenty of channels out there that'll do that for you. We'll talk about it tonight for Flashcast. In fact, Yellow Flash 2's channel will be on there a little bit later. I'm sure that's going to be a big talking point. But for me, man, I work in mental health. What I've seen in mental health is I've seen a drastic increase in mental health conditions. At first, I thought it would be a blip because of the beer bug. I thought that, you know, I mean, that makes sense. You know, you have people locked down and isolated. You're gonna have an extreme blip. You know, it's going to be statistically relevant. You're going to see more cases of everything: substance abuse, schizophrenia. Everything's going to pop up because, again, you know, you have all of these exacerbating factors that are going to make things worse. But it hasn't gone away. It's remained statistically relevant. And in places like I live, most of the people that need service, they're poor. So they can get community-based mental health. You know, a lot of people don't want to do community-based mental health because there's not a lot of money in it. You know, you're not gonna get rich doing it, man. You can't provide for a family. Like I said, I could. A few years ago, I could provide for my kids and family on that, not comfortably. I could do it. Now, no. 2 jobs, man. YouTube too. In fact, if it wasn't rewarding, you didn't help people in your own community, I understand why people become like social media full time. They cover trials and everything else because ultimately that stuff, it's not only that it doesn't provide for the providers there, but it's being phased out. During the beer bug, we lost 2 very relevant community-based service providers. I'm not talking about people. I'm talking about companies, you know, that would go in and barely make ends meet. I mean, it's like juggling one bill from this to the other just to make it work. It's crazy. But I mean, people argue. I've watched both political parties get into office, even after, again, we saw that Covenant shooting. You know, they talked about more money to mental health. You know where that money went? It went to oversight committees that sit around and do nothing, and none of the money trickles down to the people that actually provide care. Nothing happens. There's not more people getting care. That's crazy. So, I mean, you can get rhetoric from fucking party this or party that, but it's all broken. And yeah, we get outsiders, we need them. But anyway, I've ranted about this long enough. I'll talk about it tonight, I'm sure. But go check out Yellow Flash again. It's big news, you know, unfortunately for coverage of even like a Jeremy Hale topic, okay? Like, that's a topic that needs to be discussed for sure. This is a topic that understandably gets overshadowed, but, you know, these are topics that impact individuals. And you've seen this broken system that's in play. Nothing happens to fix it. I mean, it's frustrating. That's one of the reasons you cover it, you know, because it needs to change. But anyway, I'm going to end here. I'm going to go on tonight, though, like I said, probably with Yellow Flash. And whoever's on there, we'll talk about what's happening. I mean, what a crazy day. But I appreciate you folks. Go watch some craziness. Or actually, go, you know what? Go enjoy time with your family. You know, if it's obscenely late, like here, my kids are asleep. They had a busy day. So, you know, I spent the day doing stuff with them. But you'll enjoy the time with people that matter. Appreciate you.